superhero games paved their way into the early spotlight in the early 2000s, grabbing the gaming industry by storm. Then, silence. Nothing. Did they die out, or did someone kill them? I've been on this case for years, but everything has led to a dead end. Some people say I'm too obsessed with this, that it will kill me before it's solved. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am obsessed. But just tell me, does it make sense? Open world destructive sandbox games took the world by storm, and then just like that, gone. No, I have to solve this case before this phenomena strikes again.
Superhero games are fun because you get to play as someone way cooler than you. However, a lot of them stay in the formula of playing as a pre-existing character, typically from a comic book. You've got the Arkham games, Insomniac Spider-Man. Shut the fuck! Albeit very good games, mind you, but the uniqueness loses its steam when you know that Batman has fought X-Villain 500 times in the comics.
Officer Bowles.
So this outcome is already decided. Or that just the type of characters you'll be playing or seeing act the exact same, so you know what to expect. However, that started to branch out when games like Prototype and Infamous came out, creating their own powers, their own set of characters, and a world that grants the devs the ability to do whatever they like. Because when you're using a pre-existing character as a foundation, you're limited in what you can do without that foundation just crumbling entirely. Infamous is unique because it grants you, the player, to question your choices and the decisions you make throughout the game. Who will you save, and whose balls will you crush to get what you want? Do you want to be altruistic and determined in the face of great odds? Or do you want to be so powerful that no one can stop you? Infamous 1 came out in 2009, and it truly was one of a kind. Sure, you could steamroll everyone you fight with ease, but leaving a bloodbath in your wake. Or you can hold back, defeating anyone in combat, but just not incinerating them into smithereens, making it a bit harder, but at least no one's dying. It's little things like that that make the player ask themselves, what would they do? I think the karmic system is a great idea and implementation into a game because it causes the player to actually engage with the game rather than go web your 500 criminal to a wall. Now, before we get into Second Son, we need to build some context for it. So let me summarize the first two games, and I'll try and be as quick as I can, I promise. Infamous 1 starts with Cobograph in Empire City delivering a package. However, said package was actually the cause of a mysterious explosion, leaving everyone around dead and him injured, but awakened with new lightning powers. The explosion caused the city to be quarantined, as Cole goes up against the varying factions that took over, most notably an organization called the First Sons. This organization created the Ray Sphere, the device that caused the explosion. It drains bioenergy from the people around it, and it causes whoever has something called a conduit gene to awaken powers. However, the Ray Sphere also causes the plague for those without the conduit gene, due to the ray-filled radiation, which struck most of Empire City's inhabitants after the first explosion. It's ruled by a man named Kessler, who Cole butts heads with all throughout the game. Of course, you can make varying choices throughout the game, and that affects how people see you. At the end of the game, Cole battles Kessler, and we get a reason for why Kessler is even doing all of this. You see, the First Sons created basically an almighty conduit, so to speak, known as the Beast. The Beast rampages and kills all wherever it may go. Kessler wanted to create someone to stop it, as Kessler is actually you from the future. After the Beast rampaged the world and left everyone dead, most notably Trish, Cole's girlfriend, Kessler wanted to change it all, so he went back in time and tried to create a weapon capable of destroying the Beast. You. It's how you, Cole, were the one with the Ray Sphere at the start. With Kessler defeated, Cole must prepare to stop the Beast. There's some comics and lore outside of the game, but I said I'd make this quick, so moving on to Infamous 2. Cole and Zeke meet with Lucy Quo as they prepare to go to New Marais, leaving Empire City. However, before he can leave, the Beast makes his appearance, so Cole goes toe-to-toe with him. Defeating the Beast, Cole thinks it's over. However, it wasn't going to be that easy, and the Beast gets the better of Cole and drains his powers, leaving him broken as the Beast destroys all of Empire City. Him and Zeke flee to New Marais. Cole begins training his powers again as he needs to stop the Beast still. In New Marais, Cole trains his abilities by draining blast cores throughout New Marais, helping the resistant fighters against a man named Bertrand. It's also revealed that the Beast is a person you met in the first game, John White, whose aim is to awaken as many conduits as possible due to their immunity to the plague. In Cole's journey, he obtains a device called the RFI, a Rayfield inhibitor, which destroys Rayfield energy and the plague, though with the destruction of Rayfield energy, kills all of them with the conduit gene. So you're left with a choice. Join the beast and betray humanity, leaving those with the plague to die, or use the RFI, sacrificing both yourself and other conduits to save humanity from the spreading plague. Now, I summarized the games with the details I thought were necessary, but there is a lot more nuance and detail to the karmic choices you make. So if you really want to know more about this, you should go check out this channel's Cyclone, as he does amazing breakdowns of the karmic choices in the Infamous games. However, the canon ending by the devs is that Cole sacrifices himself and the other conduits. He stops the beast, activating the RFI, saving humanity from the plague. With the first two games out of the way, it's time to focus on the central point of this video, Infamous Second Son. With the release of the next generation of consoles, Infamous Second Son made its appearance in 2014, testing the new hardware to its limits. This is the game I want to show you in all its glory, as Sucker Punch has forgotten this amazing gem. Now, you'd think, oh, with the end of Infamous 2 being that all conduits are dead, why does Second Son exist? Now, I promise I will explain that in due time, okay? Just trust. Infamous Second Son is special to me because, to put it bluntly, as a teenager, I thought this was the coolest shit ever, and I still do. You are placed in the shoes of Delson Rowe, voiced by Troy Baker, a Native American small-town delinquent whose life changes one day when a convoy crash occurs in his hometown. So, with this, ladies and gentlemen, we give you the brilliance of Infamous Second Son. Seven years after the events of Infamous 2 with Kolmograph's sacrifice, a lot of developments have occurred since then in relation to conduits. Pressing start, the game explains all of them.
7 years ago, a small group of humans called conduits spontaneously acquired control over certain natural elements which they could use as weapons. The Department of Unified Protection was formed to hunt down and indefinitely detain all conduits, reclassified as bioterrorists to protect the population. It is now believed that all bioterrorists have been successfully captured and locked away. As a result, the Department of Unified Protection is being phased out, with the military assuming oversight of the imprisoned bioterrorists. Today, the first military transport of bioterrorists leaves the DUP detention facility at Curtin K Station, headed for an army prison in upstate Washington. It never arrived.
A DUP convoy is making its way towards the town of Salmon Bay. Our character Delson Rowe is a small-town delinquent, going about his usual shenanigans, making his way onto the roof of a fish cannery to defile a billboard featuring the town sheriff. This is where PS4 DualShock tech makes its appearance. Shake your controller, point and spray. The game utilizes the in-real-life controller movements to aim, a new feature as a result of DualShock 4 controllers, creating literal art. The sheriff arrives on the scene and Delson makes his escape, planning to go to the Longhouse where the Okomish Tribe Festival is taking place to establish an alibi.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman.
His plan immediately goes tits up when he alerts the woman who owns the place. Betty, a grandmother figure for Delson, who immediately clocks what is happening.
You're up to mischief.
Okay, look.
Betty, despite scolding Delson, she still helps him. It's likely that she's watched Delson grow up, and considering Delson is around 24 when this happens, he's always been a part of the Okomish. The sheriff knocks on the door and talks like he's been through this whole charade before. Again, it's very likely that everyone in this town knows each other. Betty stalls for time so Delson can leave, and he makes his way to the Longhouse. We make our way there with the game showcasing basic parkour mechanics. Arriving at the Longhouse,
Yep, that's me.
the sheriff is there waiting for us, who turns out to be his own brother, Reggie. They argue like siblings, of course. Reggie, frustrated and upset that he has to keep arresting his own brother over and over. Reggie's moral compass and respect for authority clashes with Delson's rebellious and anti-authoritative nature.
I regret nothing.
However, the argument is cut short when the convoy shown earlier arrives and starts crashing into nearby vehicles before rolling over.
Shrimp on sale at this hour. How convenient. I'm going to take the next exit. I'm going to Parallel Park.
Two prisoners, or since this is DUP convoy, likely bioterrorists, make their way out of the crash and flee. Reggie gives chase as Delson helps someone out of the crash. The bioterrorist is thankful for Delson's help, however feels forced to use Delson as a hostage when Reggie returns.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
The bioterrorist says that he doesn't want to hurt anyone, just flee before she gets here. He drains the smoke from the destroyed vehicle and begins firing at Reggie. Delson, without a sliver of hesitation, tries to help his brother by grabbing the bioterrorist's hand, awakening his conduit gene. Not knowing what happened, Delson wakes up to pure and utter carnage. Many flames engulf the area as Delson begins uncontrollably moving all over the place, similar to the smoke-powered bioterrorist. He cries out, not knowing what is happening to him, almost falling off the cliffside as a result of lack of control over his newfound abilities. He calls out to Reggie, begging him for help as he hears his voice behind all the destruction and debris. Fallen tree blocks our path, and we use our new skill to get past it. Making our way through the debris, we watched as the escaped bioterrorist launches a car at Reggie as Delson screams. Reggie, of course, asks us what we just did, but Delson ignores him, frantically trying to get him free. Trying to get the flipped car off of him, but the two of them, with their strength alone, isn't enough to get it off. Delson, I imagine, involuntarily using his smoke to blast the car away, freeing Reggie and panicking as to what is happening to him, saying over and over that he can't stop it, claiming to be one of them. Reggie, without any hesitation, reassures him that he is his brother, and nothing will ever change that whatever this is will pass and will be fixed. The bioterrorist needs to be stopped before he reaches the rest of the tribe, so the two set forth to go track him down. It's nice to see that literally moments ago the two were arguing semantics, and with all that's just happened, they still need each other. And again, Delson calls out to Reggie for help in a time of crisis. He's the one he can rely on. I know it's a bit grass is green to say because, yeah, of course they love each other, they're family after all. It still does a good job of showcasing that, you know, in this world, people with powers are big, bad, and scary. So it's not like he sees Delson use his newfound powers and immediately turn on him. The two make their way to the fish cannery where some of the tribe are outside. Reggie asks Delson to not use his tricks, as it might cause even more panic. Delson rebutes this though, saying that if he didn't use them, he wouldn't have been able to reach him, but Reggie shuts him down, arriving at the fish cannery in its flames, and Betty is still inside. The latch to the door is melted, preventing anyone from entering.
Can't make it, the shit's stuck! Out of my way, son! Door's stuck! Door's stuck!
They wonder how he got through, and Delson just says that he probably ran through it, leaving them with no choice. Delson uses his new smoke dash to get through the gate, sending the Akomish into a panic as they run away. Delson again asks Reggie to control the panic since there will be more once the rest of the tribe finds out. Reggie tells Delson to save Betty, but be careful as you never know what those freaks are capable of. This lingers on Delson as he mutters those freaks to himself, probably making him doubt himself as he is now a freak, a bioterrorist. We can smoke dash through red vents which launch us out on the other side. Truly a yellow paint moment. Using our smoke abilities to make our way onto the roof, one of these vents launches us out way further than anticipated and down a hole in the ceiling, scaring Delson at first because of the massive fall he was going to take. He hears Betty's voice through the piles of burning timber. Smoke dash is not enough to be able to get past it. He improvises by infusing smoke into a chain he picks up in order to clear the debris. In the other room, the bioterrorist is seen trying to get Betty out of the building, but she refuses. Delson runs into the room as he yells out,
Oh look, they left the door unlocked.
"You did this to me." And the man just replies with,
Shit.
"You're a conduit?" Betty is of course shocked by this revelation, but Delson just says that he'll explain later and to get out of here. The guy tries to run away, but Delson without hesitation gives chase, demanding he fixes this. However, in a tussle on the ground, Delson absorbs more smoke powers from the man, causing him to go into his mind and see his memories.
Your life literally is as valuable as a summer ant.
Even before he got his powers, he spent a good chunk of his life behind bars from his life of crime, usually robbing. The powers merely amplified his streak. However, the DUP caught up with him. This time, he was locked away in a facility designed to hold conduits, though this meant that they were basically in a really shitty care home.
We're flying to Philadelphia! Oh, hell no! That's hell no!
Not being able to use their hands because, you know, powers. They had to be fed, washed, and had their asses wiped for them. No freedom, not even in the prison. There was this one woman there with red hair who seemed to be running the whole operation, torturing the imprisoned conduits, or as she says, testing them.
Day 45, trapped in this very torture facility.
However, Hank has broken out of prison before. This one is just an added challenge. So he waited. Listening, learning, manipulating. He eventually managed to get his opportunity when she put the three of them on that wagon. He had his opportunity to break out.
Bazinga!
The two wake up confused as to what happened, who was going around in whom's head. However, the guy just tells us that if that bitch catches us, we're going to the same place that he was, as he tries to run away. Delson again gives chase, demanding he fixes what he's done. We fight around the cannery, beating him over and over with the newly acquired chain. I think the chain is cool because it's all over the place and not some refined sword master technique. It's a dude who's swinging a chain wildly and all over the place, but because of the power infused into it, that chain has now become 10 times more dangerous. I do find it odd that Delson, being a newly awakened conduit, can take on one like Hank, who's been one for way longer. Maybe it was the crash that weakened him, or he's holding back because he doesn't actually want to kill anyone. Regardless, as the fight goes on, the guy simply says, I don't know what it was that happened, but it's not something that can be fixed. Delson should now be doing the same as him, running away, because that bitch, okay, I'll stop, is going to be here soon, and even if she's just after the people in the orange jumpsuits, she's got a way of reading people. After a small prolonged conversation, the guy flees the building, so we do the same, chasing after him still. However, running out the door to see our smoke friend get smothered in concrete, with DUP soldiers and the red-headed woman that our buddy Hank, as we learn his name, was going on about. Delson, of course, not being able to keep his trap shut, slips up and uses the word conduit in talk. The woman named Augustine corrects Delson, saying that conduit is a term used by traitors who sympathize with bioterrorists. Delson, of course, surrounded by the very people that would once protect him, now being his hunters, is nervous, and Augustine says this.
It's been my experience there are only two reasons for people to be nervous. Either they're cowards, or they have something to hide.
She asks if Hank shared anything with him, ramblings about conspiracies. Basically, if Hank had shared any information about the tests Augustine had done to him, and probably many other conduits at this facility. Delson says no. And surprisingly, the conversation ends, but Delson, being a fucking moron, couldn't keep his trap shut yet again.
What? It's kind of funny because aren't you a bioterrorist too?
Continues unleashing concrete shards on Delson, torturing the guy for whatever it is that he is not sharing. This is not what I meant when I said I like it when women hurt me. Betty cries out, seeing a boy that she watched grow up being tortured. She tries to step in, but this merely gives Augustine a window. Noticing the clear bond between the two, she takes advantage of that, granting Delson a choice. Tell her what he knows, or she will move on to the next person, eventually going through everyone until someone does talk, presenting us with our very first karmic choice. Turn yourself into Augustine, telling her what it is that she's after, aka that Hank is a conduit and Hank told him everything about Curtin K. Risking your freedom to protect others is the very first step to becoming a hero. Or sacrifice the tribe. Don't tell her a thing. Allowing her to torture the tribe to ensure your own survival is the first step to becoming infamous. Now, this is where I sidetrack for a moment. The karma system where you determine from here on what kind of person you want to be, a hero or a villain. Now, personally, for the main course of this video, I'm going to be going through the good karma route, as I feel it's written way better than the evil route, and I will explain myself in due time. Also, for any time I use evil karma gameplay for something, it's because it doesn't make a difference in that point in the story what karma you've got, as it plays out the same. I will go through the evil route and I will explain the differences, but for now, I chose to turn myself in and protect the tribe. Delson admits that he's a conduit, that he caught it from Hank. Obviously, Augustine thinks he's bullshitting, because that's not how it works, usually. You don't catch conduit like you catch conduit like you catch AIDS, alright? Delson passes out from the pain as we see her move onto Betty. To be honest, the karmic choice here for an introduction kind of sucks, because it leads to the exact same outcome no matter what you pick. She moves on to the other tribe members regardless. The only difference in this occasion is that the tribe looks at you more fondly if you try and give yourself up. I promise the karma is a prominent thing, it's just here that it makes very little difference. I mean, it makes sense that Augustine wouldn't believe him, but still. They did the same thing in Infamous 1 with the first karmic choice being whether you keep the supplies or give them out. But in the end, it doesn't mean shit, because people just hate you anyway. If you're trying to make a system in which your choices affect the game, make the first one actually have a lasting impact or at least some major difference. Delson wakes up to the sound of the news. Augustine on the news arguing that the conduits escaped while in custody of the military, though we know that's not true. They escaped in the hands of the DUP. Walking through what seems to be the longhouse has been turned into a hospital. Concrete shards planted everywhere, on everyone. Pictures of x-ray scans showing the absolute brutality of Augustine's wrath. No one could stop her. We go and check on Betty. She's happy to see that we are awake and back on our feet, but she is no different, still bedbound. Delson blames himself for what happened, still having doubts in his mind about being a conduit or a bioterrorist. She reassures him that he's not like the others. Everyone here kept quiet as she says, "We're a Komish, we take care of our own." She again tries to be cheerful in a time full of despair, but Delson just can't get his guilt out of his head. Betty decides to go back to sleep. Delson vows to fix this before Reggie walks in, happy to see his brother alive and back on his feet. It seems that fast healing is a part of his abilities. Reggie asks if the whole smoke coming out of hands is gone, but Delson just jokingly remarks that there's no smoking in the longhouse.
I need my cigarettes. Where are my ciggies?
I can't take you out at the moment, Franny. Anyway, it's looking a bit cold out there. Let's stay in the wall, mate.
Yes, but I need my ciggies. Where are my ciggies?
I need to set up this morning's activities. Do you want to help me?
But I feel a lot better when I've had a ciggy.
And it's here that it's revealed that no one is recovering, that the damage that Augustine has done, it's not simply recoverable by resting, but everyone is dying. Delson denies this at first, probably already racked with enough guilt as is, but now being told that they're actually dying. The doctors that were here state that the only way those shards are coming out is the same way they came in, which is Augustine and our concrete power. Delson, without hesitation, decides that he wants to go to Seattle and go get her, though Reggie shuts that idea down. One, because last time they were together, she really cemented their relationship. Secondly, because how is he going to get her back here? However, this causes Delson to realize if he can't get her, they'll get her power instead. Delson got smoke from Hank, why not concrete from Augustine? Reggie again asks what if smoke was just a fluke, which isn't an unfair point to make, but on top of that, Delson would have to go through a lot of DUP guys just to get to her. However, Delson just says that he has a plan he'll explain in the truck. Reggie's truck, of course, as the two begin to set off for Seattle. We learn very quickly that Delson's plan is not actually a plan, but more an ideal fantasy of how things would go. Delson even compares himself to Superman. Reggie is immediately like, "My brother in Christ, you do remember there is superpower racism? Have you watched any X-Men movie ever?" Reggie tries to reassure Delson, saying that they'll find him a cure, but Delson shuts that idea down immediately, saying that just because it isn't normal doesn't mean that it needs fixing, then proceeds to use Van Gogh and Gandhi as examples, though as Reggie says, people weren't scared of Gandhi. You might think the development from "I'm one of them" to "what's wrong with it" is a bit sudden, and that's fair, as literally a scene earlier he was racked with guilt. Though I just like to believe that his conversation with Betty made his stance on who he is a bit more firm, that he isn't how the world portrays conduits, and he's going to try and break that stance. Though I imagine a whole dedicated 7 years of government propaganda is going to be a bit of a tough cookie to crack. Reggie says that the town is going to be terrified of Delson because conduits are considered freaks. I mean, he's not wrong in the sense that yes, the town is going to be terrified of him. Delson just comments that it's all pre-programmed bull, displaying his rebellious and anti-authoritative personality shown even way before he got his powers, though the conversation is cut short as they stumble upon a DUP roadblock. Delson, without a sliver of hesitation, says that they're going to walk the rest of the way and leaves the car. It's here you get to see more of the game's visual flair. Now, I was playing this game on a PS5, however the game didn't get a dedicated upgrade, so it's still sort of scaled down to the PS4 version. So the fact that the game looks this good on a PS4, well done. The DUP set up the roadblock to apprehend the other escaped conduits. Delson revels in the destruction. Reggie is disgusted by it. Again, they're both brothers and yet so different, but they need each other. They are at odds with their differing personalities, but at the same time, I just think they learned to accept each other as a result, probably in smaller scales back in Salmon Bay when Delson was just doing simple graffiti, but now with the increasing tensions like actual roadside destruction is where the clashing re-peaks its head. Though I am just a nerd, and this is complete conjecture on my part, maybe the devs didn't even think that far ahead when writing the two. It's also here where the game's not so brilliant subtitling makes its debut. I'll just show you.
Well, it didn't stop them, and it's not going to stop this bad boy either.
As the two make their way through the roadblock, Delson notices a glowing blue device and, being the curious fella that he is, walks towards it before...
Hi.
Kill yourself.
This is called a core relay. It's not a name reveal for later, they kind of just know what they're called for some reason. Delson absorbs the blue energy coming from the core relay, and with this, we learn our first ranged attack. A basic smoke shot. Nothing too crazy, but the first of many things we will learn. We test out our new ability by taking out a drone that has the same blue energy as the relay. Delson is of course very happy about this, but Reggie is worried that this is adding on to the freak that Delson has already got. Though Delson argues he's going to need this if he intends to take on Augustine. He even repeats that it's his problem to fix, not Reggie's. Whilst I'm sure his conversation with Betty helped satiate the overwhelming amount of guilt, there's probably still lingering thoughts. The conversation is again interrupted by someone yelling for help, so Delson suggests that Reggie go help and he will catch up with him. Reggie obliges, but of course hits us with the
And for God's sake, don't touch anything!
I'm gonna touch everything.
We're gonna touch you, little bro.
Our first course of action is to drain the blue energy from the drones called blast shards. However, you need to drain smoke from nearby sources, otherwise you can't actually use any projectile powers. Draining the blast shards, we regroup with Reggie, who is on a bus full of relief workers. The bus is stuck, but they won't abandon it due to all the medical supplies stacked on top. So Delson makes the decision to clear the blockades, despite Reggie's disapproval. Though our regular smoke shot won't be enough to clear the way. So it's here we find out what those blast shards are used for. They basically act as skill points that allow us to further advance our skill tree, learning new skills and upgrading our current ones. It's not actually stated how the relays or blast shards work. Are these the same Rayfield energy from the first 2 games? But didn't that give everyone super cancer? Anyways, the Cinder Blast acts more of a close quarters attack, like a shotgun. Using our newly acquired buckshot, we clear the way for the bus. Apparently being a conduit also means immunity to hit and runs as well. With the way cleared, it's time to take the bus into Seattle. Delson asks Reggie to open the door, but turns out the passengers saw Delson clearing the way and don't want him on the bus. Delson even says this.
What am I, like Rosa Parks, and they want me to sit on the back of the bus?
Dream versus Rosa Parks.
If Delson comes on, they're gonna get off. Delson threatens to take the door down, which I don't think anyone can blame him, but Reggie shuts that idea down immediately. Not out of spite for Delson, more just feeling empathetic for the passengers if they've never seen anything like Delson before.
Fuck off the bus!
I think it's cool because Delson is a conduit who Reggie has no physical power over now, but still scolds him like an older brother does. Some people say that this scene of him threatening to take the door down is a pointer towards Eva Karma being the canon side. I feel like that's a bit of a stretch. Sure, you did help a bunch of people and they turned you down, but I feel like even the most altruistic person would be like, alright, fuck all of you then. Not kill them, of course, just, break open the door and sit down on the bus, even at the back of it. They settle on Reggie taking them across the bridge and coming back for him. 5 minutes tops. It comes back on the conversation that they had earlier. Delson may perform heroics for everyone, but people are still going to treat him differently. It's super racism. Delson walks his way towards Seattle, not bothered to wait, as we hear a PR system over the tunnel claiming that the bridge to Seattle will begin decommissioning shortly. Reggie calls us saying that he's coming back for us before being cut off. Delson comes across this group of looters, probably not knowing they're looters, but he asks if they need any help. The guy notices smoke coming out of Delson's hands and immediately opened fires on him, hitting him twice before Delson falls to the ground.
This can't be good for me, but I feel great.
Delson gets back up and takes on the gang of looters, using the skills we've got up to now.
I'm overweight.
The final looter surrenders, giving us a choice: subdue him for good karma or execute him for evil. As explained earlier, I'll be doing the good karma route, so for now I subdue him and we press on. Making our way out the tunnel, we quickly learn what the DUP meant by decommissioning the bridge. DUP helicopters make their way towards Seattle as Delson crosses the crumbling bridge. Stumbling across a core relay, we absorb and learn how to use cars as launching pads, giving us more verticality. Making our way across, everything crumbles around us. As cars slip into the water, the bridge comes apart, tilting and turning every direction. And we're across yet another core relay, which grants us the ability to hover in the air, allowing us to cross the gaps between destroyed parts of the bridge. Spotting the bus at the end of the bridge, as it falls, Delson rushes to see of Reggie's whereabouts. Luckily he made it off in time as he holds onto the edge, and we rush to help him. I like the 180 that Delson does when he reunites with Reggie. It went from, oh shit, Reggie to...
That's that pitching army, huh?
He helps Reggie up and starts gloating about his new abilities, which is fair enough, though sometimes it comes across as typical main character one-liner.
I'm gonna kick your ass.
Let me tell you something, man.
Though Reggie grounds Delson, saying that the DUP are going to be out to get him if they spot him doing his thing. They attempt to see if Delson can get through the checkpoints, as his conduit gene isn't normal per se. Delson immediately says that he can take them on, which confuses me a little bit, because he hasn't actually fought that many people up to this point. These guys are trained to take down conduits, and he's been one for less than a month. Actually, it's revealed here that Delson has only been out for a week, meaning that the DUP have put all of this up while he was out. showcasing the power that Augustine and the DUP have. Maybe him taking on the gang of looters gave him the confidence he needed to think he can take on heavily armed soldiers. As they make their way through the checkpoint, Reggie says that he has connections in Seattle, of course within the police force, so he can get access to the database and make finding out information in the city a lot easier. However, it seems the hand scanner detects Delson's conduit gene, causing a fight to break out. I love Reggie so much for this moment, because without a sliver of hesitation, he tackles a DUP soldier and beats him with his pistol. He is going out with full hands. Though as the fight goes on, the two get separated. It's here you get a few choices. You can free the suspected conduits for good karma or kill them for evil. Plus you can destroy the hand scanners for blast shards. It's probably what powers them to detect the conduit gene. Advancing past the initial checkpoint, we see a DUP command center packed with soldiers. Reggie calls and explains that if we can take out the command center, it will make it harder for the DUP to track our movement. Destroying the vents will cause the core to overheat and expose itself. Destroying the command center, reinforcements arrive with Big Boss, included in that lineup, equipped with minigun and concrete armor.
Hey look, it's Uncle Dad.
Trying to melee him is a lost cause. You're better off using the Cinder Blast to damage him. Damage him enough, he'll hide in his little turtle shell, to which you'll pull him out kicking and screaming.
I wonder how much his remains would go for on eBay.
Defeating reinforcements, Reggie calls and suggests that we try draining the conduit powers out of a DUP soldier. That if it works, we can go home. If not, well, we can still go home. Reggie, they literally just destroyed a bridge. I don't know what you're on about. You're not going home. Delson tries this, but of course to no avail. Otherwise the game would have ended and Sucker Punch's HQ would be firebombed. Reggie asks if it worked, but Delson lies, saying that he's got DUP after him and hangs up the call, completing our first mission in Seattle. Delson not long after calls Reggie to ask if the police know where the core relays are located. They do, but Reggie dismisses this, not wanting Delson to tap into them for more powers, adding to his symptoms, quote unquote. Though Delson hits them with the ultimate guilt trip.
My own brother wants me to fight the ultra mega bioterrorist of all time with less powers.
Look, I didn't say that.
Well, guess I shouldn't put it off then. Better go straight on to Augustine now and get it over with. Not sure what's gonna happen.
All right, I get it. Look, just stay away from Augustine and I'll send you the ones I know of.
He gives us 3 locations and you can go about this in any order you like. Heading to our first one grants us the Cinder Missile ability. It's a missile, do I need to explain any further than that? You basically showcase the United States defense budget coming out of your hand, delivering a deadly blast that dispatches most smaller enemies, high damage to tankier ones, plus it also comes out of a completely different pool of resources rather than your typical smoke meter. It also caused my game to have a moment. You see, Delson actually played Fortnite back in 2018 and he thought he'd try rocket riding for himself.
Better work. It freaking worked!
Making our way to the next one, Delson comments on how he reckons he can storm her castle soon, though this is shut down when Reggie recalls that she destroyed an entire bridge with her power alone. Arriving at the second one gives us the sulfur bomb ability. Kind of boring to be honest, it's just basically a stun grenade, stunning smaller enemies to go in for a finisher. Advancing towards our final core relay, the two brothers have this nice bonding moment despite all the bickering we've seen leading up to Seattle.
Jesus, man, how many DUP guys are in this city?
Yeah, well, luckily you have the advantage in numbers, my man.
How do you figure that?
Well, because one person can move around faster, lighter, quieter. Plus, it'll make them underestimate you. Not gonna know what hit them.
You wanna do me a favor and explain that to them, so maybe they'll just give up?
Why? Spoil the surprise when it happens.
Good point.
Our third and final core relay placed on a rooftop gives us the power to do a comet drop, a ground pound ability, a very situational ability that I'm going to use a lot throughout this video, even when it's not needed. Delson asks for more core relays, but Reggie refuses, saying that this whole thing has got him worked up, whether that be for good or for bad. Part of me is kind of with Reggie on this. Your younger brother is recently awakened conduit or bioterrorist, and he keeps talking how great it feels to get new powers. Which, you know, I think is fair, most people would be, but in this world conduits are hated. Plus, even if we take the whole superpower racism element out of it, Delson is by nature incredibly reckless and I don't think he fully realizes what he's getting himself into. I think in his head he's living out a mini fantasy of being a badass hero saving the people from the evil. Whilst, while that does come true, it also comes with its consequences as well.
I'm not suggesting anymore. Jump.
So for now we keep out of trouble for a while Reggie works on a lead with a detective at the SPD. And with this, Act 1 ends. After some time, Reggie will call us explaining that the DUP are using one central antenna to help coordinate all movement within all the smaller districts. Turns out this antenna is the one and only Seattle landmark, the Space Needle. So with this, we are free to move however we like, go and do side content, freeing the districts from DUP control, or we can head straight to the Space Needle. However, there's still one more thing for us to grab before I decide I want to tackle the side content. So for now, we push on to the Space Needle to see if we can shut it down. Arriving at the Space Needle, of course, there's no access to the top, it's been blocked off to the public, no elevators or anything like that due to dupe control. So we settle on doing this the old-fashioned way, scaling to the top, utilizing both our smoke powers and Delson's parkour skills. As cool as it is to climb up the Space Needle, it would get kind of numbing to just do it in silence. So Delson brings up the earlier topic, the one he lied about to Reggie, asking why he can't get powers from dupe soldiers, but he could from Hank. Reggie is slightly annoyed because Delson did then lie to him about it, but I think it's clear that even to Reggie, that Delson's mind isn't changed, so he does actually give him an answer. Delson can drain powers, but it likely has to be from a prime conduit like Hank and Augustine, not people who have been given lesser variants without the conduit gene. Reggie requests that next time something like this happens to not lie to him, not out of a scolding how dare you lie to me, but more of a heartfelt please trust me. Which, to be fair, I think is a little heartwarming, as even he can tell that Delson is not going to leave Seattle without Augustine's power. There's this one point where you scale a cable and you can see all of Seattle. Well, the in-game Seattle. I imagine it's not like this IRL. Now that I think about it, for all the people who live in cities that games present, like New York and all that, how jarring is it to see that the place that you live is really scaled down? It's a small far cry for Delson's progression as a conduit. At the start of the game, he's climbing along this cliffside as he repeats to himself, don't look down, don't look down. Most likely because the guy doesn't take full damage, and his hover ability will also protect him, so he'll be fine if anything is to happen. Plus Betty gives him a call, asking how he is. Delson just says that he's at the Space Needle, and Betty just replies to bring him a souvenir. Delson, of course, nervously replies that if the gift shop is open, he will. Considering she's bedridden, she may not know about the specifics about the DUP's occupation in Seattle, that they've taken over the Space Needle. I'm sure the gift shop is open anyway. We go for a vent that takes us onto the observation deck where we run into Duke troopers and a fight kicks off. Advancing onto the roof, Delson remarks that there is a small army, and Reggie actually just says good, means you're in the right place. It's clear that Reggie has a bit more faith in Delson to handle himself against the DUP considering the fight at the checkpoint when we first entered the city. Plus, of course, the whole command center thing and the core relays. So he doesn't have to worry about his little brother too much. We bump into a more advanced DUP soldier, not one with typical military gear or even surrounded in a juggernaut concrete armor. But he does have a small concrete shell and can use powers similar to Augustine, where they entrap you in concrete. Not the same where she has the concrete shard literally come out of you, so Delson can break free, and this is where the real fight kicks off.
The little pussy belongs to me.
Break him, John.
I'm not finished.
Guns don't kill people. I do.
Our current firepower is not nearly enough to take out the cable attaching the antennas, so Delson taps into the nearby core relay, and with this we learn our first karmic streak move. With the central cable destroyed, the antenna set up around the Space Needle goes plummeting to the ground. And I'm sure there's going to be absolutely no collateral damage from that, because why would there be? We have a choice of 4 tags to pick from. It's not really a big deal, it's not like this is going to give you the good or bad ending or something, but landing one of them is the one that Delson places on the DUP flag at the top of the Space Needle. It's nice to see that with Delson's power, the bit of him that wants to spray shit hasn't changed. Even him and Reggie have a little bonding moment over this, considering last time Delson tagged something, he was embarrassed. Now this time he can enjoy the moment. As a result of this massive stunt, we actually managed to catch Augustine's attention. One of her operators comments on how we are not one of the 3 who escaped, though Augustine machine recognizes us immediately, also noticing that we probably didn't lie to her back then, but this time it's come back to bite her. The mission ends and Dell is at the bottom of the needle, with passerbys asking what the symbol means, but also calling Dell the Bannerman, which of course Dell is not a big fan of. With central communications knocked out, it means that Delson can move a lot more freely in the city. Gameplay wise, this means absolutely nothing. Reggie advises us to disrupt DUP operations while he works on a lead for the other 2 escape conduits. This is what I consider to be the game fully telling you to cut loose with its content. Within each district, there is various activities you can do to lower DUP control over a district, and once you go below 30%, you can do a district showdown where Delson vandalizes a DUP billboard and builds a very friendly relationship with the phone operator.
So, what are you wearing?
And have a final standoff against the DUP in that district. This is both good and bad. Let me explain. I mean, yeah, lore-wise it's great, you're freeing the city from a corrupt government agency, but bad for gameplay. With no enemies around the game, it can become incredibly boring. To lower DUP control, you can firstly do the mobile command centers placed around each district that will unlock access to the content within the district. Some of them even have jammers that prevent you from seeing things on your minimap, primarily enemies. Collect blast shards flying around the city. These are also tracker drones, lore-wise anyway. You can get these shards as said earlier when Delson first entered Seattle, the hand scanners that detect conduits. With these little checkpoints set up around the city, you can take them out and get the blast shards powering the scanners. All of this to upgrade Delson's skills, ranging from how much you drain out of a power source, rate of fire, your basic blast, upgrading your tactical skills that may give you the edge in a fight. For example, making the sulfur bomb a bit larger, catching more enemies to quickly subdue them, the amount of missiles you can carry. Don't know why I said that so casually. Yeah, like I just carry missiles in my back pocket. You can also get unique skills for whatever karma you choose, like getting health back from subduing an enemy, or getting a small chunk of power back from obliterating one. It's stuff like this that does make you want to play the game again and go through the different choices. Though there is a slight issue with this. Maybe not an objective issue per se, but something that can happen. By cutting the player loose so early, you can go and free all of the districts before you even start the next mission. And with this, it creates a bit of a disconnect because throughout the game, the characters still talk as if half of Seattle is still under DUP siege, though you've very clearly driven them out an entire sector. Plus, you can get very, very powerful early game with smoke powers alone. However, what I will say is a problem is that a good chunk of these upgrades are fairly bare bones. Like, you get some really cool stuff, but most of it is just, oh, you get more power, your attacks use less power. It's a shame because these could have been really cool, but it just seems quite underutilized. It feels like they definitely had some ideas for new abilities as a whole, considering some of the karma locked abilities. Whilst I still love the hell out of this game, otherwise I wouldn't even be here talking about it, its upgrade system is fairly lackluster, mostly underbaked, and most of the skills are just simple stat buffs. There's a lot that could have been done here. They could have implemented maybe new moves, or not even new moves, but alternate firing choices, new melee attacks. Like, I'm not expecting this game to be an RPG or anything like that. No, not in the slightest. I just wish there was a bit more customization. Delson's jacket, you don't really get to change his clothes throughout the game. You only get to change out his vest. You get Cole's jacket from Cole's Legacy. But other than that, most of the upgrades and most of the customization is fairly underbaked. And quite frankly, if they ever make another Infamous game, I would love to see them fully expand on this. Please, Sucker Punch.
Ares!
Release another Infamous game.
And my life is yours.
There's more things you can do to free district control. There's normal DUP cameras you can find on your radar, typically near a mobile command center that you can destroy, and it does simple, like maybe 2%. There's also hidden cameras as well. Looking through the scope of this camera, you can see Delson and other things in the area, using that to determine where its location is and destroy it. If I had to give this a rating, it's not the greatest. It gets really boring very fast. You're just trying to find a thing and destroy it. You can locate undercover DUP agents around the city. They blend in with civilians, and I don't know how Delson knows what they look like or where he got the photo from. Maybe Reggie sent them through the police database, but I don't even know why the police would have the photos of... Okay, I'm getting a bit off topic. Within a crowd of civilians, you locate the one just as shown in the photo, and as soon as you engage them, they will typically run away, and let's just say they are fast. The graffiti from the start of the game is actually done here, and it's all different depending on what karma path you take, accompanied by the greatest song in the soundtrack ever. It sounds like a street musician using buckets and bin lids, which I think makes sense considering Delson's character. To be honest, I actually quite like this side content. I think the stencil art is really cool, and it makes sure that the DualShock shaking controller and all that actually doesn't just get used once in the whole game. There's audio logs you can collect which are actually interesting, as they give you more in-game lore about the DUP and Augustine through the eyes of a DUP agent voiced by my goat, Matt Mercer.
Delson Rowe, you don't know me, but I've been watching you.
Okay, that's not creepy at all.
You've started whispers going all the way back to Washington about Augustine and the need of the DUP.
I will explain the audio logs in due time. The only reason I am staying quiet about this is because it kind of spoils the game when you explain all of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save it all till the end, then I will wrap all of it up and it will just paint a nice big picture, I promise you, okay? In terms of the actual process, it's kind of boring. However, it is worth it. It's the only side content that I genuinely felt compelled to do, as I really wanted to unravel the mystery behind Kurd and Kay and the Department of Unified Protections. Alongside freeing the districts, you can also participate in random world-generated events that give you karma, depending on what it is. There's good karma events, so breaking suspicion pens, freeing suspected conduits from DUP custody, helping with the war on drugs on the side of drugs.
Yeah, real original joke there, buddy.
Healing injured people on the ground.
House, we need to keep this patient.
Do you try a 20 pack of Marlboro Red? For evil karma, there's blowing up the suspicion pens instead of freeing them. I guess there's only room for one of us. Taking out sign twirlers or street musicians with precise atom rearrangement. Disrupting protests on the street because I'm not a people person. Executing people instead of healing them with a kick that I'm sure Delson had way before he got his powers. You can also go around executing police officers, showcasing more targeted brutality than they could ever dream of doing.
Get on the ground! Get it!
You can kill drug dealers for evil karma, just make sure to not destroy the stash in the crossfire. I ain't doing it for good, I'm just doing it for the love of the game. Most of the side content is fairly repetitive and gets old fast. It feels like they needed to have a little bit of padding in the game since the main story isn't actually that long. I wouldn't complain if it wasn't just finding things, it's just repainted fetch quests. With all of the side stuff out of the way, we can come back to the main story. So, Delson looks at a nearby TV with the news reporting on Delson's stunt at the Space Needle. Again, calling him the Bannerman. However, it seems the public doesn't know of the Bannerman's identity for now. Reggie calls us with a lead on one of the escaped bioterrorists, though Delson stops him right there and decides to explain slur law to him.
Yeah, you know, that's just a slur invented by the DUP to make people scared of conduits, man.
There's a crime scene close by that seems to be the work of a conduit, so we head there to investigate. Arriving on the scene, Reggie asks us to not attack the police there. He doesn't mind the DUP, but the police is a line he doesn't want to cross, since they technically can't really fight back and don't really have a choice in this whole DUP takeover. Though it confuses me because in the dialogue, Delson sounds almost annoyed that he's asking that, despite every enemy up to this point I have subdued in combat. Similar to the whole threatening to kick the door down on the bus situation, it's just another example of them wanting to sort of make a semi-neutral dialogue option so they don't have to redo it, but kind of falls flat. We arrive at the scene of the crime, and this is most definitely the work of a conduit. It's a laser light show-esque powers with a man strung up on a wall with glowing art of needles and a skull. Reggie asks for us to take photos of the scene and send them to him. We hear a convoy of DUP sirens and decide to follow them. You can actually fight them if you want, since the game just gives you the location of where they're going anyway. Arriving at the next scene, it's the work of the same conduit, however this one is crawling with soldiers. Taking them out, we can investigate what this one is all about. This one is floating around a fountain with puncture holes in his body, similar to the last one. Reggie explains that he got hit on the previous guy's face, and turns out it's a drug dealer with a very long rap sheet. We look for a stash to see if there's any clue.
Holy!
Giving chase to the conduit, they fire lasers at us, which can actually beam us if we're not careful, though once we close the distance, they take off very fast. Not nearly fast enough for us to be able to keep up with our simple smoke dash. Returning to the sniper's nest, Delson describes it best.
See this, Reg? It's like the girliest sniper's nest you've ever seen.
What does that even mean?
I don't know, it's just girled up. Girl stuff, like the name Brent burned into the wall in girly handwriting.
We take photos of the sniper's belongings and send them to Reggie. Though the most interesting thing is this weird duo street art of a face, probably belonging to this Brent character that was mentioned prior. Whilst we wait for Reggie to run the face drawing and the name Brent through the database, Delson makes this funny remark on how if he had both smoke and lasers he would put on light shows in their living room. Even Reggie himself admits that that would be a cool thing to do. With the conversation over, of course, then he gets a hit on the name, Brent Walker, arrested for minor drug possession, found dead in an alley 2 months later, caused by a puncture wound in the chest of unknown unknown origin. So with this, we head to the site of death to see if we can find anything else. It's clear that this conduit has a personal vendetta against drug dealers for whatever reason, though it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Delson even asks, why don't the news announce that this conduit is targeting drug dealers, therefore the random civilians are not in danger, insinuating that the DUP are manipulating the public, which, you know, doesn't really surprise anyone. Even somehow Reggie thinks that this is far-fetched, as their job is to control the panic. Has he never heard of propaganda before, or even black propaganda? Arriving at the site of Brent's death, we can see a drug dealer going down. Again, another mini explanation on world events I described earlier. Going into the building, we see more displays of neon tags, Brent written in the wall over and over, an altar set with flowers, candles, and photos, and a full-on drawing of Brent at a table with a chair next to him. Brent Walker obviously means a lot to this conduit if it wasn't apparent enough already.
Look, Pim, I know it's our job to help this guy and everything, but I think this guy's a lost cause.
Reggie thinks that we might bump into our conduit if we stick around one of the bigger neon signs in the city, at a place called Olaf's, so that's our next stop. Arriving at Olaf's, there's a bunch of protesters gathered around. Going up to them, they start yapping about how the conduit is actually named Fetch Walker and turned conduit due to the drugs she took, which is interesting to say the least. Though there is this funny little interaction that takes place.
What's the name of that book? You know, the one that says, let he who is without sin cast the first stone? Radical.
Going onto the roof of Olaf's, we hide behind a box, hobo style, to see if Fetch goes to recharge there. So we wait. Fetch arrives on the roof and Delson comes out of hiding, grabs her arm, causing him to start draining her power. The whole memory thing happens again.
Somebody stop those fucking dogs!
And we wake up with newly acquired neon powers. Though we're not out of the woods yet. Just like last time, Delson takes a moment to regain control of his new power. With this, we give chase to Fetch with our newly acquired sprint. This, when I played it, I thought that this was the coolest shit ever. I mean, two people with super speed with a neon glow chasing through the streets at nighttime to just really showcase how fucking cool it is. You chase her through the streets and along rooftops. You can also run up walls as well, which is a massive upgrade to just being locked to smoke vents. We eventually come to a stop on top of a building where Fetch blows the ceiling beneath us and the two crash into the floor below.
Lady, you've got it calmed down, all right? Just relax.
You're not taking me
Back.
Hello there, Silly Twink here, back with another content cup. Don't ask about the accent change, it happens all the time. And no, I'm not saying slurs for this bit, go away. Today I'm going to be talking about this alt girl Fetch Walker. For a boss fight against a prime conduit, this shit is very underwhelming. You basically have to take her source of power by draining all the pub signs. Leave the Weatherspoons out of this, okay? Draining the signs all around the building, Delson is likely all roided up, which allows him to fire a simple neon blast. Not the craziest attack, but it will have to do. This fight basically turns into a third-person cover shooter. Like, I've sunk enough hours into the Division, thanks, there's no need for this. Although we do have various abilities from our smoke arsenal adapted into neon. We still have a hover and chain melee, though with neon, Delson turns it into a full-on lightsaber without the dismemberment. If you're out of cover for too long, she'll go into a small vantage point and fire a high beam laser at you. Get too close while she's undefended, she'll blast you back to 2020 Dream SMP days. Not the actual streams, the Twitter side of things. For a fight between two superpowered humans, this shit would be more enjoyable with an actual gun. This fight, however, is probably one of the straightest things I have ever seen. We eventually bring her down with the power of Don't Stop Girly Pop. Del drains more of her power, delving into her memories. And that's it for today's Content Cop. Time to go argue with people on Twitter. See you in a few months. Fetch, when she awakened her conduit gene, her parents without hesitation turned her into the DUP. I'm not entirely sure what the public know about the DUP, because they believed that the DUP would actually help Fetch with her powers, not lock her away in a facility forever. If I had to guess, the public don't know about Curtin K, or at least it's not widespread information. Delson seemed shocked about its existence when he dived into Hank's memories, and I feel like a dedicated facility to locking away people with powers would be as notoriously known as Guantanamo Bay. Regardless, Fetch's brother Brent ran away from home, fleeing and staying in hiding. Though at the time they were kids, so as expected, as a vulnerable child on the street, they got taken advantage of and were hooked on drugs. It probably didn't help that Fetch had powers as well. I imagine she hid them, but if someone were to find out, they would probably try and use her for their own gain. As the two were hooked and addicts, they were always looking for a fix. With emotions ramped up and the brain coring for its hook, Fetch accidentally killed Brent while she was out of her mind on something, we don't know what it is. The DUP found her not long after that, probably not even fighting back due to the shock of what she's done. Unlike normal prison, Augustine had actually taught Fetch how to properly use her powers, so when the crash happened, she escaped with all the skills taught to her, and was determined to set things right. In her mind, killing all the dealers that she could find, hoping to stop something like this happening to someone else. As the dust begins to settle, Reggie arrives helping Delson up and explains that he's got a place to put her, where Augustine won't find her, she can't hurt anywhere else. Though Delson argues against this, saying that she's just killing drug dealers, though Reggie says,
"Cool motive, still murder."
I think what interests me in this conversation the most is that Delson says, "What do you think I'm doing to the DUP?" and Reggie replies with, "What you have to save the Akomish back home." Which is funny because I don't think I've killed a single DUP person on my playthrough. Well, it's not 100% stated how it works. So in combat, you can subdue or execute someone, but sometimes you can't and they'll just fall outright. Is that them being knocked unconscious or them being killed? Because I killed them in self-defense rather than reducing their bodies to nothing, I don't get evil karma, maybe? Even with this question in mind, Reggie seems to be okay with brushing off Delson's killings, whether it's because he's weighing the lesser of two evils or simply because he's his brother. I mean, he even says he's never going to abandon Delson ever. Fetch tries to flee. I imagine worn out from her fight with Delson, so that's why she can't use her neon sprint. Either way, Reggie grabs her and we are left with a choice. Redeem Fetch, teach her self-control of her powers, instead of her just killing drug dealers, work together to tackle the drug trade as a whole. Or corrupt her, mold her into a killer better than if she ever was before, but instead of drug dealers, set her onto the anti-conduit activists. With the path I'm already on, I of course choose to redeem her. The choice here makes sense to me anyway because her main goal already is to make sure that nothing like this happened to anyone else, only her methods are questionable. So if her goal is to avenge Brent's death, what better way than to cripple the trade that fosters things like that happening to people? Delson claims that she'll be her responsibility and for Reggie to trust him, and so he reluctantly agrees and leaves. I think deep down he knows Delson is okay to handle this considering what he's been able to handle up to this point. The two agree to talk about what's next, and with this we set forth for Fetch's path to redemption. Now, with all the story stuff out of the way, I'm just going to be honest, this boss fight was really underwhelming, mostly just because you're shooting at her. The game never encourages you to use melee or the comet drop ability. You can use it, but it's hard to pull off, as if you get close, she blasts you away. So a big chunk of the fight is just sitting there behind cover and firing simple pew-pew blasts at her. I think the game tries to ground itself at points which I can somewhat respect, but like, we're playing a game with superpowers. You're allowed to go a little bit nuts with the action and make things a bit more cinematic than just playing a reskinned cover shooter. Sorry, I'm being a bit of a stickler. Reggie calls and again disagrees with Delson's decision, but Delson explains that they were going to need her help for the end goal of helping the tribe. So Reggie sends us an address for a core relay, of course to upgrade our new neon power. Delson says that he'll let him know and what he gets, but Reggie doesn't even want to know. I think they're still clashing and at odds with this whole conduit and bioterrorist business going on with both his family and the world around him. Delson then asks if Fetch wants to tag along, help him talk through some of the basics of the neon power she gave us. I think what sucks in this is that Fetch never actually talks him through some of this stuff. You just drain the core relays, but moving on. What's interesting is that Delson says that he figured out how to tap into them for more powers, and Fetch says that normally they're used to track conduits, which makes things a bit clearer now, because why would the DUP set up glowing boxes to give conduit more powers? It seems that this is exclusive to Delson, that their main purpose is to track conduits. When you approach a core relay, it beeps more frequently the closer you are, and that when you absorb one, DUP forces arrive not long after. The two of them banter a lot as well as being somewhat similar with their reckless behavior, albeit one's habits are a bit more murderous than the other. Basically, Delson is saying, I can fix her. No, you can't.
Give me the fucking formula, crap!
Arriving at the core relay, Fetch dips pretty much immediately, considering she isn't looking to be captured by the DUP again. Absorbing our first core relay, the new ability is basically just to shoot the glowing weak spot. By zooming in and shooting an enemy in the leg, we instantly subdue them, or in the head, instantly obliterating them. This is really powerful when you unlock 1, the slow motion skill, making critical hits easier, but in combination with the subdue restores health, most fights you're basically untouchable. That's another thing about this game, it isn't the hardest, which is fine because in this you're a prime superhuman who can absorb other superhumans, you're bound to be powerful, and a good chunk of the enjoyment comes out of steamrolling everyone. The only thing I wish they did do was amp up some of the DUP soldiers in the boss fights. Fetch locates another core relay, and instead of us having a GPS marker on our map, she leaves little neon markers around the map, which is fine, just a little strange as it's used for this one mission and then never again. Although to be fair, one of her markers is just a dead dealer on the ground and this funny interaction takes place.
Hey Fetch, just stumbled across a bit of your handiwork. You think maybe you want to dial it down a notch?
Gotta feed the fury, dude.
Or maybe you don't feed the fury. It'll starve to death and you become a people person, like me.
Or maybe you can bite me.
I think the bit that makes me laugh slightly is that Delson at this point is on the hero path through and through, and even when he sees a dead guy, he's just very casually like, maybe don't kill people pretty please? Anyways, arriving at the next relay, Fetch is in a firefight with some dealers. Breaking open this relay and absorbing it, we get our new tactical ability, Stasis Bubble, which suspends enemies in the air, allowing for a critical shot. To be honest, this isn't really all that different from the Sulfur Bomb. The only difference here is that it renders enemies immobile rather than stunned. Following the next marker, we get our next ability, Phosphor Beam. Instead of a missile, it acts as a hit scan precision shot. If I had to compare it to something, it would be like an anti-material rifle. Plus, you get to hold more of these than actual missiles. Following the markers to our final relay, we see that Fetch has taken this dealer alive, and this interaction takes place.
Fetch, I see you started taking these dealers down alive. Can't help but think I had something to do with that.
Yeah, all you egomaniacs think you're the reason for everything that happens in the world.
No, I don't think I'm the reason for everything. I mean, just your highly visible change in behavior, that's all.
Right. I feel like I'm being a bit harsh, but this change is way too fast to be believable. I'm sorry. I have a hard time believing that some random guy one night takes her powers, beats the shit out of her, then delves into her memories and her deepest traumas, and after a couple of conversations, her bloodlust is satiated. Again, I think the redemption plotline is fine. In fact, I think it's a good idea, but its pacing and progression happened so fast that this thought was the first thing I had when I played through this. Maybe I'm just being a Scrooge on this. Arriving at our final relay, we get our Karmic Streak ability, the Radiant Sweep, which, as it says, sweeps combatants off the ground and allows Delson to spray them all with the hose. I like Neon as a power. The only problem I have with it is that it kind of makes smoke redundant. Why use smoke to move around when I have the endless Neon sprint? Why use smoke stuns when I can stasis bubble and crit shot a guy? I can understand they were trying to go for something different. I think a lot of this comes from what I said earlier about the upgrade system being really bare bones. With our new abilities and gear, Fetch calls us and explains that she wants to move further up the chain for the drug trade in Seattle, that simply taking out dealers is small time and wants to cripple the operation at its core. Delson agrees to help out, but also remarks that he's never changed anything before, which, considering for most of the game he's been very cocky about taking on the whole world, being a one-liner Andy. Here's to him actually saying, for real? Oh shit, I've never actually done anything like this. Considering this time he genuinely believes he's making a change towards something rather than just tagging stuff. You gotta remember, Delson at his core is very anti-authority, so when he harps on about how he's expressing himself to Reggie at the start of the game, maybe it's a bit hyperbolic considering he's just mocking his older brother in his own hometown rather than going to Seattle and tagging stuff, but I don't think he was flat out lying when he said that to Reggie at the start as some cheap excuse rather than something he genuinely believed in, even if his methods were a bit off the rails. Whereas here, he's changing something more widespread than just his hometown. I know it's a bit different considering one of them is tagging stuff and the other is trying to take down a whole drug organization. But it's clear that he genuinely does want to make change, and he himself is also trying to figure out how. He doesn't have all the answers himself. What does confuse me is that the game presents both missions to you depending on what karma you've got, but if you go to the other karma mission, the game won't let you, saying you need X karma to do it, which is fine, but why present the option to the player in the first place? But anyways, arriving on the rooftop, Fetch calls and explains that the dealers have had this major shipment come in, and that the group use a dolphin insignia to coordinate which shipment is theirs. Says that she's going to lag behind, but we can start without her, as we don't know when they're going to start offloading the drugs. So we push onto the marina, and immediately she says this.
Fetch, I'm on the docks.
And I'm here on the roof. What, you couldn't wait a few more minutes?
This is why I hate working.
We clear out the marina of dealers and start tagging the boats marked with dolphins for Fetch to blow them up.
No wonder it took me so long. Fetch, you said dolphin, but clearly this is a porpoise. It's a common mistake.
This why I hate working with boys.
There's this one dealer that actually outsmarts me. He does the helicopter move so I can't hit him. Because the conduit gene makes you unable to swim, I got stuck in the water. There's this one houseboat that you can hear noises inside of, and opening the door, a woman runs straight out. Seems that this operation is bigger than just drugs, but also human trafficking too. Whilst we check the other boats to see if there's any more people inside before we, blow them up, she says this.
Fetch, you didn't tell me there'd be girls at this party.
So I heard. Dealers must be using their hookers as human shields.
With all the boats tagged and all trafficked people free too, it seems that we've stirred the hornet's nest as a lot of grunts come out to fight us. Taking them out, we regroup with Fetch as we watch her high beam all the boats as they blow up. We wait for the final shipment to arrive so we could follow it. After some time, the truck arrives and we stick to her rooftops, as I imagine a glowing pink beam running around you might set off a few alerts. Like most video games, a trailing mission is never ever fun. So to make this a little less mind-numbing, Delson actually tries to make small talk with Fetch, asking her about Kurd and Kay. She shuts the conversation down, but then a few seconds later decides to humor him. She explains that there are around 400 to 500 inmates, and that some of them were separated and given training, that she was one of these prisoners. It also revealed that she was in the facility for around 6 to 7 years, which if you think about it, means that she must have awakened her conduit gene not long after the events of New Marais. Though Delson says,
I was just gonna ask if it had a pool.
You're a jackass, you know that?
Yeah, so I've heard.
I'm gonna be honest with you, he really just said he does not have the emotional development skills necessary for this conversation. The truck stops in an alley and Delson asks what the plan is, so Fetch just says, get them. Clearing out the alley of dealers, we open the truck to find even more people inside, freeing them. The two ponder on what they've done, asking, reckon low-life conduits will ever get thanked? To be fair, I think this is more of a funny ha-ha line than it is a sad one. They have this little tender moment where Fetch claims that Delson may have saved her from the dark path that she was going down, though Delson just says that that was most of her charm. So of course, the two flirt and banter a bit more as they start getting rid of the drugs. Fetch's development from going around throwing mud at the wall, aka ritualistic murdering of dealers, to wanting to go after the bigger fish is a good idea, I just don't think it's executed well. Pacing from it feels rushed, and it just needed a bit more time to bake before it can feel believable. Not that it's a bad plotline, just that at times, the points of development we start to spot, like Fetch sparing a dealer to wanting to go after the whole operation, happen within the span of a few minutes. Though what I do like is, regardless of its pacing, the way the developments are written. Fetch needed someone to be able to talk to. She at this point is still mourning her brother, and her method of grief is simply revenge. Not trying to solve the problem as a whole, but going around killing those she deems deserving. No amount of deaths is going to change the past, and I think that this is what she needed to realize. Even if simply having someone that she can joke around with, even if a simple laugh that can make her head a bit clearer. But what does surprise me is Reggie's lack of involvement in this mission. You'd think that with Delson going after this massive drug operation, Reggie would get involved and help the two. Fetch stated at the start of the mission that she interrogated a grunt until they squealed, so I can understand how she knew the information. But Reggie and Delson could have bonded over this, over the fact that Delson is stopping crime rather than doing it. Plus, it'll give Delson more credibility for how, yes, he can take responsibility. I understand if I'm being a bit of a Scrooge for this bit, and that this section is mostly meant to expand Fetch as a character, so maybe it would be difficult if Reggie was there, but I feel like Reggie can just be on call with the two, being the guy in the chair. However, regardless, the night passes, leaving us with our next part of the game. The next day, Fetch calls saying that when she woke up, that we were gone, so it's safe to say that the two hit it off after the job was done. I mean, Delson literally replies that he has to go hook up with the other woman in his life, Augustine. If they're gonna go this direction, I'm really glad that they didn't make Fetch stupidly in love with Delson, because you knew the dude for a couple of hours. Though on a sweeter note, Delson does say that Fetch should be proud of what she's done, because her brother would be too. Reggie calls and explains that there's an increased DUP presence over in the Lantern District. Probably close to, or think that there's an escaped conduit hiding there. So we make our way across to the Lantern District, crossing a bridge under dupe control. We could never cross this bridge before because our smoke was not enough, so with our newly acquired Neon Sprint we can go past the initial barrier. DUP immediately set their sights on Delson, probably expecting him. So, like the highly trained units they are, they throw a power source directly at him for him to drain and then use against him. You'd think by now that the highly funded soldiers that have been trained would be semi-informed about Delson's abilities. I mean, maybe because we knocked out the central communications and Delson hasn't been in Seattle for that long, that would answer it. But if Augustine can direct a massive force of DUP to one part of the city, surely they can be briefed on Row. Regardless, the bridge has auto turrets that you've got to avoid, as they can take a lot of frontal damage, so you actually have to leapfrog behind them. Getting to the end of the bridge, there's a gap that you can't cross, but luckily there's a car there. Yeah, remember that ability? Because I didn't. So with this, we bridge the gap. We fight tougher DUP units, not comparable to Big Boss or the Wizard, but better than the smaller grunts we've been fighting up to this point. Though, lo and behold, Augustine is waiting for us at the end of the bridge. She remarks about her upgraded arsenal, knowing of our neon power. Delson denies this, but we know last time he tried lying, yeah. Taking the direct approach, she sends out the bloody Stomper to force Delson into a corner to be forced to use neon. Oh good lord. This opponent is the toughest foe we fought up to this point. Surrounded by 4 giant concrete shells, he controls them, launching at us through the ground. Sometimes he'll lower his protective barriers, exposing him, though directly throwing 2 slabs at us. He'll also phase into the ground, jumping out in front of you like a FNAF jump scare, trying the close and intimate approach. Guys, I just think he wants to...
Now finish the big concrete off so we can talk.
Sheesh, is this what it's like having fucking Karen as your boss?
Remember, we got your back.
Delson admits that he lied about the neon. Regardless, even if you beat him using smoke, the cutscene just doesn't change. Delson, on the other hand, does offer a deal though. He says if she gives him her power, not enough to violate multiple human rights conventions, but enough to be able to pull the concrete daggers out of his family back home, she'll never see him again. Though, of course, she denies that and just as easily as before, traps him in concrete as she did in Salmon Bay, telling him that he'd be useless back home and more use to her alive. Though is rescued by an unknown entity, only picking Delson up and dropping him off on a rooftop in the Lantern District, exactly where we needed to be. This is probably the most disgusted and annoyed I've seen her look. We are then contacted by a man named Eugene, who claims to be a fan of ours and wanting to help. Whatever tag you picked at the Space Needle changes the dialogue here as Eugene reads out the interpretation of it. Delson says that he's looking for the escaped conduit within the Lantern District, and Eugene tells us of a convoy holding suspected conduits making its way through an overpass that is closed off to citizens. Delson asks if this convoy actually has any prime conduits, but he doesn't even have any leads to go off of, so with no other choice, he decides he's going to make his way there to prepare and ambush the convoy to free and shake the hands of the suspected conduits on the prison buses. We take out the supports underneath the overpass, making an instant roadblock for when the DUP drive over it. There's this weird exchange where Eugene is wishing that he was there to see it, but regardless of what karma path you've taken, Delson just says, yeah, you mortals better give us room to go to work. Like... Lil bro, chill out. You've been a conduit for a week and a half. Let alone, you've been out for a week, you've been sleeping for a week, so you've been one for 2 days. However, with preparations, we set and wait for the convoy to arrive. Delson is playing a game on his phone, sat on the overpass whilst waiting. Seeing the headlights get closer, he looks annoyed that he has to stop playing. What the fuck is he playing that requires his attention so badly? Geometry Dash? The overpass crumbles as an armored truck goes atop it. The convoy is halted and we make our move. The weather is foggy and our vision is impaired slightly as a result. So much so that when we use our radiant sweep, we have this really subtle glare. Strange that he didn't want to blow up the convoy as it would risk the deaths of the suspected conduits, but we can still proceed to use our karmic streak ability that wipes out everyone. As we go to check the bus, we hear an explosion in the air, though not aware of what it is due to the fog. Though video game logic, of course. As a helicopter comes out of the fog, barreling towards us, Delson ignores his super speed or a smoke dash and proceeds to run away normally before being crit hit by the chopper. Delson wakes to the destroyed chopper with these swords coming out of the scraps. He asks Eugene where the buses have gone, but he can't tell as radio chatter is quote-unquote all over the place. However, this spikes an important question. How the hell is Eugene in the DUP communications? And I'm not even joking when he says this, he says,
just this phone app I've been tinkering with.
Right, I'm sorry. It's one thing that this phone app is tapping into highly funded military communications, but also can pinpoint it. That's not even the worst bit. This creates probably the worst mechanic in the whole game. You have to climb high enough to even hear the communications and tell what direction it's coming from. And the thing is, you can't even fly, only glide, so you have to check, go in the direction, go up a building, check again, rinse and repeat until you make it. I'm sorry, but whoever thought this was a good idea needs to have their balls twisted. It would have made more sense if we took an earpiece of a dupe trooper and they doxed themselves or something. Anyways, arriving at the source of the signal, the first bus is swarming with soldiers. Taking care of them and checking the bus, it seems that it's empty. We keep tracking the signal and it arrives at our second bus. It seems the DUP are fighting against something, but it's not us. Maybe the escaped conduit? Arriving at the second bus, it's also empty. No soldiers, no prisoners. However, the bus seemed to have these holographic swords inside, similar to the thing that we saw all the way back in the tunnel on the way to Seattle. Back in the third bus, seems some angel-looking things are fighting the DUP. They seem to think that we are responsible for them, so they become more interested in me. Clearing out the DUP, the final bus is also empty, because why wouldn't it be? There's some comments on how this last escapee can either make angels or he's tracking down God, and no matter what power scaling you do, he's fucked regardless. Though even though we have no escaped conduits, they all seem to share a common thing. These vests found at the scene, where it basically labels them suspected conduits as well. Hard to get off as well due to the locks on it. Eugene suggests going to Hing Hang Market as there's plenty of hiding places for them to go and try and get them off. Arriving at the marketplace, Delson has the grand idea to go and check all of the porta potties. So, of course, we proceed to go and open them all up, because why not, I guess. Of course, video game logic, it's the last one we check. As we're about to open it, someone in a vest bursts out the door, knocking us to the ground before running away. We chase them down, but an angel comes in and swoops them out of the sky. If you thought fetch was fast, these guys can fly, so the distance between us and them gets bigger and bigger really fast. Reggie then informed us that he's made it across to the Lantern District, but is also confused as to what's happening, considering there's now angels dive-bombing people. Delson explains the convoy ambush, and to keep a lookout for the DUP vests they put on suspected conduits. Reggie is surprised by this, but mostly impressed with Delson for finding out so much. He even says that he'll deputize him back home, but even worse, he says the J word.
Leave me alone!
We head back to the market to continue the search, but we overhear a group of people saying that there's one on a crane nearby and that they're gonna go get him, because yeah, superpower racism. These are called the Occurrents, basically just a group of troublemakers that seem to really dislike conduits more than the protesters. The protesters do it because they're ignorant, the Occurrents do it for the love of the game. However, they don't really act that different to drug dealers in gameplay, they just carry pistols around. We follow them to a construction site where we climb onto the crane to shake the hand of our suspected conduit, but the guy thinks he's in fucking Assassin's Creed and takes a leap of faith before an angel sweeps him up and takes off with him. Delson is annoyed that they keep doing this, and Reggie says that he has a plan for this. Regrouping with Reggie, he's put on a vest because he's a masochist who wants to know what it's like when you switch sides. Basically, he tells us to use the Find My iPhone app to figure out where the angel is taking him, making him a tracking device. However, for this to work, we need to bait out the angels, so Reggie says to chase him, shoot near him, all of this to get the angels to swoop him up. The thing is, this is a good idea lore-wise. Gameplay-wise, it just translates into you following someone who you run faster than base speed, stopping every so often to say something,
I'm a bioterrorist! I eat children and kittens!
Yep. You can shoot him though, and he'll proceed to call your names. After some time, he'll get swooped by an angel, so we track his phone, though the angels this time have sent reinforcements to come fight us, but they also die in one hit. Reggie immediately regrets this plan, because he's now moving at speeds like no other in the air. We track the angels to the waterfront district where they seem to be coming out of these giant TV screens, so they're video angels, which makes a lot of sense now. Our escape conduit can control video, which sounds insanely powerful, but I'll get into that later. With the jig being up, we take on the angels, and to weaken them, we need to first break the link between where they come from and here, so we need to fight them and destroy the TV screens. The angels usually are never a problem, but this time hordes of them come out, so you need to fight them off and break the screens. Some of them even shield them. At one point, literal demons come out and suicide bomb you as they all proceed to charge at you like they're fucking Foxy. This is actually somewhat challenging if you're not careful, as you're taking fire on all sides. Destroying the screens, we reconvene with Reggie, who regrets every choice he's ever made. However, he points us to a cellar that the conduit is likely hiding in. Delson calls Eugene, thanking him for his help in finding the conduit. Eugene tells us to not go in there, basically pleading. To put it bluntly, Eugene is obviously the conduit we've been searching for. There have been many times where he asks us too many questions like, oh, are you still at the overpass? Oh, I have friends in high places. Don't ask how I know these things. How he knows so much about the DUP at times he disappears without answering us. The only reason I didn't mention any of this at the time was because any mention of this at all would have made it obvious to anyone that Eugene is the conduit we're after. When he first contacts us, he even asks nervously why we want to find the escape conduit. It's a weak twist. I mean, it doesn't have to be a good twist. I wasn't sure what they were going for here, but it was very obvious from the start.
You made love to me.
No, first of all, you suck my...
Regardless, we enter Eugene's lair and it's packed with DUP vests from the people he's been kidnapping. Televisions and arcade games everywhere. Going towards one of the live TV, it proceeds to...
I am he who dwells.
Drags us into the video game world. You can make an anime about this. This fight has you fighting the nerd of nerds. This is the result of giving a pissed off noob admin privileges. He fires his high beam laser. Wait, this reminds me of something. Unlike the other angels who go down in one shot, this one goes down with a lot more. Too many, in fact. It seems that even in the video game dimension we can absorb neon and smoke. Don't ask me how that works. This fight is a lot more cinematic than our previous conduit, as we use our neon speed to outmaneuver his attacks. Good job, Sucker Punch. I'm not sure if Sucker Punch are trying to say something about their player base, but oh my god, they might be right.
Don't hurt me, Delson!
Draining his memories, he was exactly as I expected a character to be, a bullied nerd who snapped one day. I haven't heard this character before. I think now is the time to talk about some of the major qualms I have with the characters. They're just incredibly cliche and tropey, and not even in a good way. I know I made the joke earlier that this game is old and it was made in 2015, so you can excuse some of the things it says, but even at this point in time, I remember people were trashing these characters for being cliche and tropey, and for good reason. I don't think Fetch is badly written, I just think her character is lacking in the scream dying department. Yes, I know about First Light, but I'm talking about this game, okay? Eugene, as we will soon come to learn, is very, very unoriginal. Reggie is the best character in the whole game without a doubt. Delson and Augustine, I'm saving that for last. One thing I give Eugene immense credit for is how after he escaped Kurt and Kay, he was planning to battle Augustine regardless. Fetch wanted to break out and achieve something before she inevitably got caught again, and even she knew this. Eugene, despite being tortured like Hank, he still managed to keep himself, well, sane anyway. I imagine he already had a few mental problems from the bullying he faced, but even after being taken in by adults, the people who are supposed to help him just amplified his pain even harder. After the guy gets out, he's like, bitch, it's on, considering he can summon an army who even the DUP struggled against. It leans a little bit into the whole hero fantasy idea, but I think that makes sense for Eugene's character. The dude hid away in the video game world as escapism from his real life issues. Of course he's going to have a hero fantasy. I really think Sucker Punch is trying to tell us something. I mean, the guy even calls himself He Who Dwells. At least the boss fight was actually quite fun though. The arena you fight him in actually has you moving around all over the place, looks cool, but most importantly, you can actually use both your powers here. Still can't melee or comet drop him though. I reckon it would have been cool if Eugene had an angel sword, or if you use your karmic streak to bring him down. Things would have been way cooler, but hey, look, I'm wholly satisfied with what I got. The two wake up per usual, and the whole power draining thing, with Reggie coming to help us up. Reggie, as before, wants to lock up Eugene for kidnapping suspected conduits. To be fair, Reggie actually uses the word conduit, and Delson thanks him for using, but still argues Eugene's case, leaving us with a choice. Redeem Eugene. Help him build his confidence by working together to help save people who can't defend themselves. Or corrupt him. Break his fear of bullies by showing him how strong he really is. I mean, he's not wrong. Eugene easily has the potential to be the most powerful character in the entire verse. I can't believe I'm power scaling right now. The guy can summon angels and demons, and he has an ultimate form himself that can 1v1 a chopper. The dude can manipulate video and make any sort of digital media a reality, but only chooses to use Heaven's Hellfire, aka World of Warcraft, as a reference for his powers. If the guy had proper training, he probably would have been able to take on Augustine. Hell, it might have been him that saved Delson, not one of his lackeys, because let's be honest, if Delson can take him on, so can she. Obviously, we know which option I went with though. Delson argues that this whole locking up people without due process is not too dissimilar to what Augustine is doing. Reggie actually acknowledges this and agrees, saying that he'll just be outside if he needs him. I think because he redeemed Fetch, Reggie has more reason to believe that Delson can handle this. That is until you play Evil Karma and the scene doesn't change at all. Delson then does the whole teach me video tricks and I'll teach you to get bitches and looks max and Mew and, as I said, very cliche stuff. Though to be fair, he does say this.
Listen, man. It's your life. But there is a way for us to live out there in the real world. But it's up to us to make it happen. You think about that, you let me know, okay?
He's acknowledging that Eugene can do what he likes and Delson won't stop him. But if he wants to be in the real world, Delson will be there for him. I don't know, I thought it was kind of cool to see that semi-emotional maturity from him, aside from all the typical one-liner Andy type stuff. Leaving the area, Delson decides to test out the new video power he's got, but he can't do anything. Like, nothing. He can't melee, he can't shoot, we can't even use our old abilities. I like how Reggie sends us a core relay without even asking. I don't know, just feels cool to see him more supportive of Delson. Though Delson breaks the news that he can't actually use any of his powers and the two need to meet up. It's likely Delson bit off more than he can chew with video. It's also reminiscent of the start of the game where Delson goes to Reggie when he's in distress or panicking, but this time the table is flipped. I think it's important to remember, it took years for Eugene's power to finally materialize into something that can manifest in the physical world rather than in World of Warcraft. They reconvene in an alley and you know the situation is bad as Reggie turns off TikTok auto-scroll to address the situation. Reggie is actually pleased to hear that Delson's powers are gone, that with this bioterrorist stuff being gone, they can go home now. I'm glad that he acknowledges that Delson has put 100% of him into this mission and that it's a miracle that he's alive. I'm surprised that Reggie is okay with this. Not the whole losing powers stuff, it kind of makes sense that he'd be happy with this. He's been saying this from the start about quitting and going home. What does surprise me is how he and Delson are aware that without Augustine's power, the tribe is going to die. I think it's both strange in a good and a bad way. Bad that he's okay with the tribe dying, obviously, but it makes sense because he wants to protect his little brother more than anything else. Considering all the very stereotypical characters we've had up to this point, I think it's cool to see this very strange but also human moment from Reggie. Though, Delson is too in deep to back out now. He's made himself an enemy of the DUP, and Augustine seems somewhat interested in this, having whole multiple power shtick. Even if he gets back up and leaves, the DUP will come after him. So they must go on. He will throw rocks to get Augustine, and he says he's doing all of this for the tribe. Reggie then proceeds to ask that if his mind's made up, why does he need him? Delson explains that he does need his help, but he can't break open the core relays without any powers. So Reggie of course does things the old-fashioned way. I find it funny that Delson has had fully automatic guns, turrets, helicopter missiles, but God forbid someone pulls out the blicky in front of him. Reggie just smiles and Delson thanks him. I know that literally seconds earlier Reggie was happy that Delson's powers were gone, but I think that was more out of care and safety for his brother rather than hating the powers. I think he's warmed up to conduits and Delson having powers, especially all that he's accomplished in Seattle in just a few days. So we absorb the first core relay and we get our first power, invisibility, our tactical ability, which is actually fairly new and different than just a stun grenade. However, it can't be used if you're too close to an enemy, which I think is a good thing. With invisibility, you can do an instant takedown. As I said earlier, with the Neon Crit Bolt being combined with Subdue Heal skill, it's already powerful enough. This stops you just basically making press L1 to heal button. As great as this is not enough. We need more. And Reggie even says what we're going to do without him. We can't invisible the next one open. As the two make their way towards the next one, this funny interaction takes place.
I guess if you got stuck with only one power, invisibility isn't so bad.
No kidding, right? I've been planning what I would do if I could turn invisible since I hit puberty.
And this conversation is now over.
This next relay proceeds to give us the coolest melee weapon in the whole game. A giant video sword you've been seen placed around up to this point. Or if you're on Evil Karma, they take the form of demonic claws, which are still just as cool, mind you. So we test out our new sword on the dupes coming for us. It's a slow swing, but it two-shots most smaller enemies. However, the time it takes to swing, sometimes they'll just gun butt you before you can actually land the hit. I like how the sword doesn't use Delson's chain. He had to absorb a core relay just to be able to melee people. It just comes to show how great a video power is Even the evil Karma execute takedown is cool, as you literally jam the claw into a dude and he just obliterates into little pixels. The sound design for it is, well, immaculate to put it bluntly, and that's actually something I don't think I've brought up till now, but the sound design for this game is actually probably the best it could have been for its time. The unique sounds for each power and the way it feels on the controller as well, so gold star for you, Sucker Punch. I know I've been using different sound effects, but these ones I found on YouTube, and the main reason is because my copy of all of the footage that I got for the game has background music and varying noises. The soundtrack for this game in some areas is also very noticeable, like at the start of the game and some of the fights. I know I've been doing the whole cinematic thing with the Persona music, and I'm going to keep doing that. You're not going to stop me. But I figured I'd give the game's OST some actual credit. However, moving back onto what I was talking about first, with all of the melee stuff unlocked, I actually want to talk about how cool it is, but how painfully underutilized it is. I know I brought this up earlier, where they said they could have used new moves, but for melee in particular, I don't think they use it enough in fights. Most of the fights just have you shooting at the other person. I'm not saying this needs to be a sword fighting game, okay? There's plenty of games for this, I know that.
Devil may cry. Dante. I'm trying to fight these demons, but I'm dummy thick in the clap.
But I just wish there was some variation in the melee moves you got, otherwise it's just the same swings over and over. Or you can have DUP enemies that use melee attacks and deflect your basic shots, forcing you into a close encounter. It would have been cool to use them in boss fights as well. Most of the time, if you get too close to an enemy, they'll just stun you and force you back. You can melee fetch, but it's hard to do, and kind of requires her AI to break a little bit. You can't melee the big stomper guy on the bridge as he's hovering, which I'll give a pass for. I think that fight is great on its own, and there's no need to overdo it. You can't melee Eugene as he's in flight for the entire fight, which I think I'm okay with purely because I have a hard time believing that Delson wins in a sword fight against that dude. What I do wish I could have seen was Eugene using the sword. I mean, Delson literally calls him and tells him that he got the sword, and Eugene starts nerding out over it, saying how cool it is. Okay, if it's so cool, why don't you use it then? Imagine if in the boss fight he does sweep attacks on the platforms you're stood on, forcing the player to reposition. Now, with some means of defense, Delson decides that it's too dangerous for Reggie to tag along, so we go invisible and ditch him. I mean, these guys are still heavily armed, Delson has his fast healing. Reggie, however, is an origami swan. Delson calls Eugene and asks if his friends have done some recon in the area, most notably for the core relays. Of course he has. Delson even invites Eugene, but he declines, saying, and I quote, "I've got level 11 angels." I've got level 11 angels waiting for me. I made my point earlier, I'm not going to repeat it. The next relay gives us objectively the best movement ability in the whole game, which is the Surge Wings. They don't make you fly per se, but it says very quick dash on the ground and up walls, and when going through the air, you'll glide at speeds way faster than the Neon Run. You can also use it to go through these video antennas placed around the map on the roofs, acting as launch pads essentially. Combined with the skill, the upgraded double air surge, you can dash through the air twice, as well as using the airwave ability. This changes your hover by making it that if you hover in the air for a certain amount of time, you can regain your altitude by moving your analog stick around. I know I was being a bit of a Scrooge earlier with the melee, but I genuinely think this is probably the best flight ability the game can give you for a final movement ability. It doesn't break the game completely by letting you fly fully, but it gives you enough to be at least satisfied, at least for me anyway. Going to our next relay, Delson asks Eugene to pitch in some friends to help him as we got ambushed by snipers last time. Eugene agrees, but also asks about Fetch, seeing if she's okay. But it's done in such a way that Delson's like, no, you need to level up your speech stat before even trying that. Again, I made my point earlier. However, he does also ask about Hank. Delson has to break the news though. But it's also here that Eugene reveals us that Hank had a daughter that he was planning to go home to. Delson just says that he'll be dealing with Augustine soon enough in response to all of this. Arriving at the next relay, we get our missile ability, taking the form of lock-on homing swords. Again, thumbs up Sucker Punch, this is cool as shit. Testing out our new ability on the incoming helicopters, they take them out with ease. However, Eugene's angels run away. Delson then asks Eugene what was going on, and he just says that he thought he wanted them to warn him, and Delson basically scolds him. What I find interesting is that he's like, we conduits have got to take care of our own. You haven't even been one for 2 weeks. Arriving at the next relay, the angels and the DUP are already scrapping, so we join in and get our next power, Video Torrent. This is so much different from our previous two firing shots. It acts as a machine gun, which is amazing because it shreds enemies in seconds. It's well done because with the smoke and the neon, it's a single fire shot. The neon, to be fair, acts as more as a sniper, precise shots. The Video Torrent doesn't have any glowing weak spots, you just shoot them until they drop. Eugene gives us another relay, but is scared as it seems there's a whole platoon of DUP by it. It's probably them noticing that Delson is now going after the core relays, and this interaction takes place.
You don't even know what you'll get.
Hey, don't Eugene out on me, okay?
We set our minds to it, there's nothing a couple of young stud conduits and a buttload of angels and demons can't accomplish.
I don't know about stud.
Stop. Call you when I get there.
Nah, he was blushing and shit when Delson said that. He was probably giggling and kicking his feet. Arriving at the next relay, he wasn't lying. There was a lot of DUP here. However, clearing them out, we get our final ability, Karmic Streak, Hellfire Swarm. You send out angels or demons into the air and you dive bomb the immediate area in front of you. Eugene wishes he was there to see it, but Delson again encourages him to come out himself. With our entire arsenal in order, Reggie calls us and is upset that we ditched him, but Delson cuts him off, talking about his new powers, but even Reggie admits it's kind of cool. Eugene informs us that he's been monitoring the occurrence, and it seems they're up to something big. He needs our help to find out what it is. So we regroup with him at his safe house, or as he calls it, his dominion. To be fair, he seems to be somewhat out in public, but wants to stick to the shadows. This step alone is somewhat big for Eugene, so Delson reluctantly agrees to it. It seems the occurrence have been rounding up all the suspected conduits that escaped and are planning to sell them back to the DUP. So we head to a construction site that may have hold of them to be able to free them. Making our way there, this interaction takes place.
Friends, I hope you mean an army of archangels and not Melvin and Linny from your D&D group.
I don't have a D&D group.
Gee, seriously, man, you've got to lighten up.
Arriving at the site, we need to clear out the tower floors, as the angels can't fit. However, clearing this whole site, it seems that there are no prisoners. However, you can hear helicopter blades in the distance. It seems that the DUP have already got them all rounded up in shipping containers, so Eugene sends out angels to basically help the containers down when he cuts the cables. This is actually a really cool set piece, as you get to see Eugene's army of angels versus the Duke choppers. Again, this is all one guy's power. Breaking the containers, Eugene's angels allow them to safely descend. There's this one final container in a park and there's this massive dupe convoy converging on it, so Delson and the angels have one massive standoff against them. However, the dupe keep advancing on us, gaining ground. Eugene's angels are falling and Delson requests reinforcements. There's even two big stomper guys that arrive on the scene, which are hard to fight when there's two of them. However, video is actually really powerful, enough to handle the two of them. However, you do need to be on the move constantly. Eugene freaks out and panics as nothing is going to plan and proceeds to hang up on Delson. Defeating the two big stompers, and Eugene himself arrives on the scene, pushing back the DUP, whilst Delson snidely remarks that the dupes have already lost if Eugene himself is here. So Delson, Eugene, and his army have one final standoff against the DUP. During the fight, Delson asks Eugene to teach him how to take the form that he does, and Eugene just basically says, "No, your level is too low." The group come out on top, pushing back the dupes and freeing the suspected conduits, and the two meet up on a rooftop, and this interaction takes place.
Well, look who decided to join the real world.
Yeah, you convinced me. Figured I'd give people one more chance.
Well, on behalf of people, thank you.
Yeah, well, worst that can happen, they let me down again. I ran hellfire on their asses.
There you go, kid. Happy thoughts.
I like this development in a weird way, because at least in my opinion, it doesn't come across as finalized. And let me explain. The sort of shit that Eugene went through is a lot. The guy is terrified of people, and found solace in the friends that he literally made himself. I don't think this scene is him suddenly having loads of confidence now he can mew and looks max, as the youngins would say. I think it's him starting the journey to being more confident in the open world, rather than him just suddenly at the snap of a finger being as cocky and as arrogant as Delson. The guy can barely go out in his ultimate form, let alone his human one. I just appreciate how it didn't do something really stereotypical more than his character already is. The reason I prefer this to Fetch is mostly because Fetch's redemption is more about that. A redemption from all the people she's killed and the dark path that she was going down. I think that's a fine storyline. As I said earlier, it's how it went from 0 to 100 just like that. That was my main problem. However, here it feels like it's more the start of something rather than the end of it. Eugene never had that bloodlust, but he already wanted to fight Augustine and DUP and always wanted to help people. He just had trauma from the past that was bogging him down in his mission. I know I took the piss a little bit earlier when I said that he was probably living out hero fantasy in his mind, but I do think it's important to remember the timeline of events when Augustine apprehended both of them. They were both teenagers who had already been through a lot, and now with Augustine detaining them, just adding fuel to the fire, it's likely that their mental growth has had a significant impact. It's just fortunate that they met a cocky asshole like Delson when they did. However, with this, we conclude the end of Eugene's arc. Reggie calls and explains that there was a news-reported explosion, and DUP are scrambling units all around the news tower that Augustine took over, and set up as a HQ, probably to help control the media within Seattle. However, not long after the news station retracted the explosion, so we go to investigate. We can see that the news tower is surrounded with helicopters, but there's no actual firefight happening. It seems the DUP have also ordered all Seattle PD out of the waterfront district, all markings of a cover-up they don't want anyone else knowing about. So of course, we proceed to get nosy. Reggie sends us the address where the order was initially given out. Arriving at the location, it seems that there was another smoke conduit as we see dead troops everywhere, with resemblance of Delson's handiwork, or at least that's how he puts it.
Fantastic!
We send Reggie photos of the crime scene, and it also seems that one of the soldiers' helmets still works. Seems that this isn't another smoke conduit, but Hank. Somehow he's alive, even though both Reggie and Delson were certain he was dead. Fetch then proceeds to join the call and then asks why we're on a rampage. However, confused, Delson says that that's not him. So we meet up with Fetch where we can see directly the firefight between Hank and the DUP. Fetch wonders why we care about Hank since we've already got smoke, but Delson says that even if he managed to break out of Augustine's tower, he can probably help them break into it. Delson asks for Fetch's help, but she declines, saying that she doesn't trust Hank and that he reeks of bad news. Besides, she'd rather avoid the DUP as much as she can. However, she urges us to be careful as we set off to go find Hank. We greet Hank on the rooftops and he practically flies from one building to another. As this is happening, this interaction takes place.
You trying to get killed? Ian? Reggie, I got him! If the cop's here, I'm gone. Your turn with the chopper. Damn it, Reg, you scared him off!
We lost sight of him, but he seems to have gone to another district that the police are operating in, so they have plenty of bioterrorist report at the marketplace. Arriving there, it doesn't take long to find him, and the chase continues. Delson yells out saying that he just wants to talk, but Hank isn't having it. However, we lose sight of him again as he proceeds to ambush us and catch us off guard, knocking us down and tapping into our phone. We wake up and Hank calls explaining that he wanted to talk, but he wanted to wait until we had calmed down first. Delson didn't really sound too all upset while he was chasing him, but okay. He asks for Hank's help in taking down Augustine, and he agrees, though the call gets cut short when the DUP are scrambling near him. We inform Reggie on the idea, but Reggie thinks this is a really bad idea. This time not because Hank's a bioterrorist, but because he's an actual convict with a criminal record. But regardless, Delson tells him to stop worrying so much. Hank calls us back and explains that he has clearly noticed we've been getting Hank of our new abilities, though I didn't use smoke during that entire chase. Regardless, he explains that you can shut down part of the electrified fence at the news tower with a transformer not too far. However, it's pointless, as the whole building is armored and half the DUP is guarding it. So he instead suggests that we lure her out so we can fight her on even grounds. Delson asks if he's got any ideas, and this is where Hank reveals that both Fetch and Eugene have been caught by the DUP. Okay, what the fuck and how? Surely the two would be able to put up a fight large enough that Reggie would maybe get a report and inform Delson? Maybe Augustine herself apprehended the two, hence why it was under the radar? I think about it now, it didn't take us long to find Fetch or Eugene. It took us maybe a couple hours to lure Fetch out. We just sat at a neon sign and she appeared, whereas with Eugene, we followed the video angels back to his lair. Apparently when Hank hung up on us earlier, that's what it was about. Seems she needed to make up for Hank breaking free. However, this presents an opportunity for us. She's holding them on an entire concrete island she's made not far from the pier, so the two will storm the place just after sunset, freeing the two. With this, the four of them can then take on Augustine. Delson informs Reggie of this, and he just replies with,
Reggie, Eugene and Fetch,
I heard.
Hank and I, we've worked out a plan to storm the island and take out whatever dupes are guarding them.
Delson, I've been thinking, there have been a lot of innocent people killed lately. Normal people.
Normal? Jesus, Reg. We're not going back to that, are we?
Look, I'm not sure I can help you add to that count, alright? Just to set a couple of bioterrorists free.
Reggie,
I'm a cop. I'm supposed to prevent this kind of thing. Just give me a call when it's over and we'll head back to Salmon Bay.
okay, what the fuck is this? Sucker Punch, I get you didn't want to rewrite every piece of dialogue for the karma paths, and that's fine, but really? I think it's cool how worried Delson actually sounds here. I think it shows that he does genuinely care about the two, aside from, wow, you're a conduit, me too, give me your power. Regardless, they need to be rescued, so we wait until sunset to free them and battle Augustine and end it all here, leading us into our final act of the game. After some time, we arrive at the pier, and it seems Reggie is there, who had some time to think, and decided that Delson is right. These aren't bioterrorists, not conduits. These are people. people who need our help. Delson looks him in the eye and just says thank you for being here. Hank shows up asking why Cop is here, though Delson just affirms that he's his brother and he's here for him. Reggie, whilst waiting for the two, did some recon. He found a part of the island being guarded by a skeleton crew, so Delson and Hank will cause a commotion while he commandeers a boat and goes in during the distraction, reaffirming his position to Hank, the legalities that come with his newfound freedom. I think people need to know the amount of balls Reggie has. Reggie can scold Delson because he's his brother. Hank doesn't have that tie and can very easily turn Reggie into ash, but still looks him dead in the eyes and threatens him. The two make their way to an entrance Hank found into the island. Delson asks how Hank lived and he just replies that Augustine never killed him, just shut him up. It seems if fully engulfed in concrete you don't die, I guess you're just trapped. Hank breaks open a ventilation pipe that the two can dash through and end up on the other side. He also says that they've got a core relay on the island for us to get before fighting Augustine. That raises a question. How does he know about that? Delson asks, but Hank just dodges the question and the two begin their infiltration of the island. To start the distraction, we take out the support pillars set up below the main platform. The guards will feel the rumbling and come check it out, allowing the both of us to let loose. Clearing out the guards and taking out the supports, we arrive at the core relay, but nothing seems right.
Hey!
Henry, you didn't disappoint me.
I did like you asked. You just do like you promised. You son of a bitch! I trusted you!
Never trust a convict. I see we found something in your size, but just to be sure.
Oh, lady. When my brother finds out what you did, oh, he is gonna...
He's gonna what?
I'm sorry, can we please talk about how badass that was? Even Delson, a guy with an arsenal that can take on an army, can confidently say to probably the most dangerous conduit of all time, my older brother is going to fuck you up. I think it just shows how much faith Delson has in him, regardless of everything that they've been through. Though Reggie broke us free of our leg brace, we're still arm-tied, so we need to leave immediately before she returns. Delson explains to Reggie what happened with Hank's betrayal. It's unclear Hank's motivations, but regardless, we messed up by trusting him. It's probably why he hung up on us. He probably refused to contact us unless it was on his terms, probably setting up this entire trap with Augustine. It's definitely how he knew about Delson's ability to tap into core relays for powers, probably why he was annoyed with Reggie's appearance. Not because he's a cop, but because Reggie put a spanner in their plan, and he did. We also have to do this whilst dodging auto turrets as well. Regrouping with Reggie, he breaks our binds as they begin to try and free Eugene and Fetch. I find it a little bit funny that he says we should save those people, like he's doing a Dead by Daylight skill check or something.
We should save those two.
The two attempt to break the chains binding the pair, though Augustine cuts this short by encasing Reggie's legs in concrete, as Delson screams, closing the shell, encasing Fetch and Eugene as she smashes into the ground, breaking the platform the two are on. Delson catches the side and holds Reggie below him, as he struggles to pull both himself up and Reggie. They both know how this is going to end, and Reggie just says this.
I'm so proud of you.
No.
Always have been.
No! Lindsay, don't!
I love you, bro.
Reggie plummets to the water below, telling his brother he loves him as Delson screams out in horror at the sight. Delson's face says everything it needs to. He pulls himself up looking at Augustine, dead in the eyes, as she looks at him as if this is nothing to her. Delson shakes off his sadness, for now replaces it with pure anger, and it's here we find out just how powerful Delson has truly become, showcasing his rage and fury on his brother's killer. He unleashes everything he's got, feeling nothing but contempt and disgust to the person who killed the only one who stood by him despite everything that happened. Augustine never stood a chance. The news showcases the aftermath of the fight. The island this battle took place on was now nothing but debris in the water, as Augustine retreats to her HQ in the tower. Delson washes ashore as he repeats to himself how sorry he is for Reggie for trusting Hank, though now he has his target set to someone else for now. As a DUP convoy rocks up, Delson swears that he is going to make Hank pay for what he's done. We easily dispatch the DUP as we proceed to track down Hank's signal. I made the complaint earlier about this tracking signal mechanic, but Delson's grieving and video makes it easier, so I'll shut up for now. We track down the first signal to what clearly looks like a battle between Hank and the DUP. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes, as he clearly broke a deal, but regardless, it means he's close. Tracking the signal down, we hear on the DUP communications an exchange between Hank and a DUP captain probably, some sort of commander, but we don't know what's happened. However, it seems some of the DUP have gone rogue, or Augustine turned on Hank after his usefulness ran out. Hank tells them that if they continue to follow him to the marina, the trail of bodies he left will only get bigger. However, hearing those words, Delson immediately sets forth towards the marina, finding Hank and the just ended battle between him and the DUP, as Delson easily takes him down, probably a reference to his growth compared to when they first battled. This scene is acted so well, I thought I'd just let it play out.
Of a bitch. She killed Reggie.
I didn't know, I swear to God.
You didn't know? You set us up!
She said she wasn't gonna hurt you. She promised she's just gonna talk.
What, and you believed her?
She got a sadistic streak a mile wide, but I never heard tell of her actually killing a conduit.
My brother would still be alive if it wasn't for you.
She had my daughter.
Before Hank can flee, Delson quickly closes the distance by wrapping his chain around his neck, leaving us a choice: kill Hank for what he did to Reggie, or spare him. This, in my opinion, is the best karmic choice we've had throughout the whole game, and I will explain why. This is probably the only time where the player has truly thought about the decision they will make here. The choices leading up to this mostly align with, oh, I'm a good guy this playthrough, or I'm a bad guy, so I'll pick this choice. To back this up, most YouTubers back in the day when they played this all had mixed emotions when it came to the scene, regardless of what karma run they were doing, because here is where you truly think, oh, what do I do? For the sake of Delson's position currently, I believe he would spare Hank, considering now we have Hank's motivation for his betrayal. His daughter, as the DUP were holding her hostage. Now, I'm no parent, but friends of mine are, and I know full well they would burn everything if it meant even a 1% chance of their kid's safety. To Hank, he was damned if he did, damned if he didn't. If it's picking between 4 people he barely knows versus his own child, the choice is obvious to most. He knew he was nothing but a piece on a chessboard, but was willing to be that piece if it meant ensuring his daughter's well-being. Delson may be a one-liner Andy, but he's not stupid, and he knows this too. He may have lost his brother, but his words to him before he died was, "I'm so proud of you." Everything that Delson had done up to this point, Reggie had credited him for in that one sentence. We know that regardless of the karmic path you take, Delson always holds his brother in high regard. So it makes sense that maybe in this scenario he thinks that Reggie wouldn't want this for him, and that he would do the same if placed in this scenario. On top of all of this, he's witnessed what grief can do to a person. He witnessed and helped firsthand someone move on, or at least put their dark path to bed as a result of their family member being killed. And having someone like Fetch in his corner, someone who knows exactly what he's going through right now, help him realize that what needs to be done is to be placing his anger towards the person who has caused so much suffering at this point, Brooke Augustine. So he lets go of his chain as Hank gasps for air. Hank even offers Delson a choice: to come with him if he so pleases, to disappear. Of course, Delson doesn't reply, just simply tells Hank to stay safe, leaving him to reunite with his daughter. However, Delson would be well within his right to kill Hank for what he did. Hank burned bridges with everyone he came across way before Delson. He was a piece of shit before all of this. Killing, robbing, he may not be pure evil, but he's definitely incredibly self-serving. Putting all of this daughter stuff aside, Hank has proven to be a liar multiple times, and his life of crime was a choice he had made. To put it this way, I understand why he wants to get away, but he wouldn't need to get away in the first place if he didn't make such shit decisions. Hank isn't a piece of shit for wanting to protect his daughter. He's terrible because the circumstances that led up to these events were nothing but a result of his choices. Anyways, moving on. Augustine makes one final stand at her tower as she tries to spill more vitriol about Delson, but his actions all throughout Seattle have nothing but the support of the public. We cross the entirety of Seattle with everything we have learned up to this point. The DUP have set up checkpoints everywhere. But it's not stopping us now. Heading to one of the bridges, you can even see members of the public cheering us on when we fight the DUP. They don't run unless we accidentally kill one of them. Crossing the map and arriving at Augustine's tower, leaving us with another choice. We can expose her and her deception to the public, leaving her humiliated and forcing her to face what she's done to both conduits and normals, or kill her for what she's done. Again, the choices are actually locked behind what karmic path you take, and that kind of sucks considering the end of Infamous 2, you can actually switch, but moving on. Of course, we settle on exposing her. Considering Reggie has shown nothing but support off of Delson's actions, I don't think Delson would stray from his path now. But if he decided to, I wouldn't blame him. We shut down the transformer powering the electrified fences because for some reason it's both left unguarded and out in the open because plot convenience. I also think unintentionally his first fight with Augustine made him realize just how powerful he truly is, and now he can take her on, even in her fortress. Though with the first set of defenses down, we begin the final battle for Seattle. With only some of the fences down, we're forced to use smoke to advance up the tower. Fetch calls and seems to have noticed the battle taking place and joins us. Yes, they're both alive, and I'll explain that in a second, okay, we're gonna get there soon. She breaks open the smoke vents encased in concrete, so it looks like Augustine was actually prepared for us and actually, made proper preparations according to what we can do. And the two continue to advance up the tower, fighting all the DUP that come their way. A convoy of helicopters set their sights on Delson as he requests Fetch's help, though Eugene and his army rock up, evening the playing field between the DUP and them. So with this, the three of them battle against the DUP in this really cool set piece. We find this antenna letting us return to video and bridge the gap between us and the top of the tower. It's a shame we didn't get to use neon during the climb, that kind of sucked. The roof is armor plated, so Fetch tries to use her laser to cut through, whilst Delson and Eugene provide cover.
Fear not, for I shall protect you.
Chat, this is Riz. She finishes cutting through the roof, allowing us to go and face Augustine one final time, as the two of them will face on the DUP. It's clear that the two have absolute faith in Delson to take on Augustine. Besides, this battle is now do or die. As Delson lands inside the building, Augustine stands in the shadows, saying that her growth is very impressive, though Delson just calls out Augustine directly for what she's done. To set up the crash, make Fetch and Eugene look like monsters so that she can swoop in and play the hero, just so that the DUP could remain, as it was under threat of being disbanded by the government, as they believed they had locked up all conduits. She claims that this is all to protect the conduits. You see, when the dupes took over conduit oversight from the military, not a single conduit has been killed. Of course not, right? She hunted them all down and locked them up. She again claims that this was to protect them from the mobs that wanted to kill them. Delson calls her out on this, saying that who is she to make those decisions for them, to decide someone's life for them. But again, she just says that this is too important. She then talks about how the people of Seattle view us, the rarity that the powerless would embrace a conduit, that we need to use that status to convince them that the DUP is the solution. If the military takes control, things may return to what they were 7 years ago. However, Delson just calls out Augustine and her bullshit. She claims to protect the conduits. By what? Torturing and testing them, all as a part of what? A means to an end? No. He's going to expose her insanity to the world. She, of course, isn't a fan of that idea, but Delson isn't going to stop now. Here, he looks determined and more ready than ever before. He's faced her before, and he came out on top. This isn't one-liner Andy no more. This is someone who realizes what is happening around him. This is now bigger than himself, and whilst I'm sure he feels much contempt for Augustine for Reggie's death, he now realizes what it is that he must do. The fight begins and it's the same as last time. I didn't really explain it though because I was trying to do the whole I'm angry cinematic thing, but this time she utilizes a shield that deflects all small arms fire, though it can be taken down with missiles, has all of the moves that the special dupe troopers have up to this point, and then some more. She was the one who gave them these powers after all. More projectiles, I mean a lot more. Hell, she even has saw blades that come through the ground, but again, no matter, she is outmatched. So, she settles on taking a huge gamble. She offers her power to Delson, as he immediately grabs her hand, draining her concrete, but also her memories. Serving in the military, she was sent to fight conduits during the events of Infamous 2. You see, the Beast was slowly making its way from Empire City to New Marais, where Cole was. So, along the way, the Beast was simply destroying all of the cities in its path, but was also awakening conduits. She was amongst those who had awakened, alongside a girl. Her unit wiped out, she traveled through a lawless city, that wanted conduits dead. When she arrived back to her battalion, they, without hesitation, set their sights on her. So she made a choice. Trapped the girl she was with and handed her into the military, earning the government's trust and forming the DUP. She genuinely believed that she was going to save all conduits. Augustine's beliefs about the past aren't dumbfounded. They came from experience during and after the events of Infamous 2, however very clearly lost herself along the way. No, I'm not leaning towards the, oh my god guys, she's just misunderstood. I'm saying that she's lost her way so much, she's forgotten the aim as to what she's doing. For starters, throwing her kind under lock and key, not only imprisoned but tortured them, subjected everyone around her to pure misery, sent her soldiers to die, but also got loads of innocent people caught in the crossfire and killed Delson's brother. When at this point, Delson had let most of the DUP live in their encounters and was only slowly dismantling the DUP, not slaughtering them. Even then, she kills Reggie simply to hurt Delson as a means to an end. Her thought process was, if the numbers say no one's dying, then it must be good. This is also semi-parroted by Hank, as even he says, I've never heard of her killing a conduit. It's why the dumbass genuinely believed that Augustine was just going to talk. It's also why Fetch and Eugene lived as well as she wants to save them. But the people around her would most likely rather be dead than be behind the walls of Curd and K any longer. She's someone who's stuck in the past and as a result has become a hypocritical, evil, morally corrupt dictator who thinks that the ends justify the means. Unfortunately for her, the person who she probably should have killed back in Salmon Bay stands before her, threatening all that she's built, as he declares that he will open the doors to Curd and K and free the conduits. Though it's not going to be easy. Augustine knew what she was doing when she handed Delson her power. To put it bluntly, he can't do anything. No old power, no new. He's vulnerable. And she has had many years to practice with hers, as she turns into a giant concrete monster that engulfs most of the room. Delson calls out to Eugene, asking to bring him core relays to awaken new abilities. However, we have to wait inside the Forever Box whilst waiting for Eugene. This process is mostly just waiting for him to arrive, so I'll skip the wait. Our first ability is called Boulder Dash, our movement ability to dodge her attacks. Airlift, similar to Video Airwave. Concrete Shrapnel, a burst fire that can actually damage her, and actually does the most damage in the whole game. Concrete Slabs, which fires out a wave of them, our missile ability. Eugene claims it's all he can find, but Delson just says,
That's all I'm gonna need.
Yeah, I'm told that hurts.
When the dust finally settled, all you could see of Augustine were her eyes peering out from that concrete shell. The rage that had filled them moments earlier was now replaced by fear. We dismantled the fortress she had built, the army she had raised, the future she had planned. The entire world was about to know that she had failed. Taken down by a gamer, a junkie, and a small-town delinquent. The crowds cheered as Augustine was hauled away. Before all this, no one would have imagined that humans and conduits could coexist. And now I was the guy kicking off the second age. Oh, and those conduits who'd spent years locked inside the walls of Curd and K, they were soon to be free once again, to live their own lives, to choose their own futures. As for me, I'd gotten what I came for. And now I had a promise to keep.
Betty awakes to Delson, removing the shards on her legs, curing her of the illness. Betty just laughs as she thanks Delson for saving her. Delson just says that a promise is a promise. We're a Komish, we take care of our own, though she asks where Reggie is, but Delson just goes silent as he says, Reggie saved me. The man who was there with his little brother from the start, though he never made it to the finish line. I'm sure he's smiling down, proud of the man that his baby brother has become.
I love you, brother. I'm sure gonna miss you.
What a fucking game, man. I know there's points where I shit on it a lot, but don't doubt how much I really do like this game. This was the coolest shit ever when I played it when it came out. Also, Heart-Shaped Box, both the Nirvana and this version are both great to listen to. This game at the time, for its visuals, the gameplay, just the whole thing itself, was on another level. It's slightly outdated in terms of the upgrade system and the way things progress, but regardless, this game is something I would highly recommend anyone play. However, that's not the end just yet. There's still more. What if we did things differently? What if instead of being the hero that conduits needed, we became the bioterrorist that the masses fear, not ruling by respect, but with an iron fist? What if we became... Evil Karma is the alternate path you can take. The core gameplay remains the same, but some story elements change. I'm not going to deep dive it like the hero route, but I will summarize it and then present my thoughts. You with me on this? Okay, starting all the way back in Salmon Bay, instead of turning ourselves in, we instead sacrifice the tribe to ensure our own survival, telling Augustine to shove it as she moves on to the rest of the tribe. The outcome is the same, but this time the conversation between Delsin and Betty is much more awkward. There's subtle dialogue changes, like in the truck on the way to Seattle. In the good route, Delsin talks about how he's going to heal the sick, but here he doesn't even mention that at all. The bus also feels more believable with Delsin's threat. Of course, you execute the dude in the tunnel instead of leaving him out of the fight. You make sure the guy literally gets hit with the frenzy flame. When faced with what to do with Fetch, Delsin actually gets aggressive with Reggie, twisting his hand saying that conduits are his call and not his, and then threatens to break his nose. Then Delsin manages to convince Fetch to go around murdering all the anti-conduit protesters as they both go on a massive killing spree. Of course, hooking up at the end of this, however, this time being a bit more explosive, to say the least. The conversation even changes the next morning.
Sorry about all those laser blasts at the end there, but it's been, a while.
Yeah, okay, Starlight. When faced with what to do with Eugene, the conversation between Reggie and Delsin remains the same, but this time Delsin teaches Eugene to break his fear of people by showing him how strong he really is. Instead of focusing on saving the suspected conduit, we focus on killing as many occurrences as possible. At the end of it, Eugene basically turns into the school shooter, killing anyone who dare look at him wrong. When faced with the choice between sparing or killing Hank, Delsin just simply says to him, "Eye for an eye, asshole." As he chokes out Hank, you can hear his daughter crying out, waiting for her father, who's not coming back. On the way to Augustine's tower, the public are in full support of the DUP. Some will even attack you, showing bravery against a force that cannot be stopped. When Augustine and Delsin face off against each other, the two don't talk morals. Augustine is happy that Delsin came along when he did. The biggest threat the world has faced since the Beast, stopping him will definitely ensure the DUP's survival. This isn't a battle of ideals, it's two evil people wanting to kill each other and being well happy to do it.
You're goddamn right I am.
When faced with the final choice to expose or kill Augustine, Delsin settles on making her pay for what she's done to Reggie, but also making her the last obstacle in his path. He bests her, encases her in concrete, and pushes her to her death. Now it was his turn to rule Seattle, with monsters that Augustine had created. No one can stop him. Now he's going to free all of the conduits at Curd and K, but not before shaking each one's hand on the way out the door. But before that, he had one promise to take care of. He returns to the Akomish in Salmon Bay, though meets Betty on the way outside. The news, of course, showed everything. The many people Delsin had killed. He claims no one was going to stop him from getting back to them. She stands up, still with concrete in her legs, denouncing him for what he has done. He has disgraced their people, their ancestors, but also his brother, excommunicating him from the tribe. They may die without Delsin's help, but they know that, as Betty shuts the door. Delsin, in his rage from being exiled from the people he fought so hard to save, he decides to make things even, the only way he knows how. Evil Karma has its strengths, but in terms of the writing, I feel it's inferior to the hero route. Not because the ending is bad, I actually think this ending is amazing. It shows that Delsin is no longer different to Augustine, if not worse, and that sound effect on the orbital drop really shows how scary it is to be on the receiving end of it. You've got to remember up to this point, we follow Delsin when he does it. Here we watch him fly up into the sky and comes down like a bolt of lightning. But the main issue I have with Evil Karma is that Delsin has no development at all. Like, he goes from being neutral to being a full-on villain. There's no developing descent into darkness. It feels like he's a full-blown evil dickhead from the start. The way he talks, I mean, he very callously says to Betty, "Tell everyone I said thanks for taking one for the team." Delsin, they're dying. The fuck do you mean? It feels like he's too uncaring from the start. I assume that when playing evil, Reggie would abandon Delsin, or at least give him more shit for being a bioterrorist. I mean, the guy went on a murder spree against protesters, and Reggie calls him the next day as if nothing happened. The bit that pisses me off most: Reggie's death. This scene is unchanged, and that infuriates me. In Infamous 1, where Trish dies, if being evil, she even says she's ashamed of what Cole has become. Reggie is a cop who claims to be wanting to prevent the deaths of innocents. He says that when wanting to break out Fetch and Eugene towards the end of the game. However, that scene is still the same. Reggie doesn't even have to say like, "I hate you" or something, just, I don't know, "I hope you find a better path, little brother." Just something. I can understand him excusing the DUP deaths because he literally says he's doing what he has to save the Akomish, but the death of innocents? Again, the guy literally went on a murder spree that night. Trust me, I know. I used my karmic streak 3 times in a tunnel full of people to up my KD. I do like Augustine and Delsin's talk before they fight at the end. She doesn't claim to have the moral high ground. She's happy Delsin came along when she did. Now the DUP she fought so desperately to keep can stay if she bests him. But we all know how that went. The choices between the two paths lean towards be a hero or be an asshole. There's no moral ambiguity to it like Hank and his daughter. Infamous 1, the choices never felt like Cole was deliberately being an asshole, just fighting to protect those he cares about, however at the expense of others. In Infamous 2, Cole can actually join the beast, leaving the plague to spread, but there's at least some thought into it. After all, Cole knows he's going to die if he goes the other way. Delsin feels like from the start he doesn't give a shit about anyone, which is strange because at the start of the game he feels a bit heartwarming, not an evil dude, just a troublemaker, but he seems like a sweet guy. I've seen people make the argument that Evil Karma makes sense for Delsin because he's a troublemaker and an outcast, so he gets a hold of power and it corrupts him. But I don't agree with that at all. Before the karma choices are presented to us, it's shown that people care about Delsin. Betty still helps him, he's still invited to Akomish festival activities, and the people never sold him out to Augustine. I don't think he's an outcast, I think the tribe just views him as a troublemaker, but not a bad person. There's a difference in the endings of Evil Karma. If you're max rank and made all the evil choices, Delsin kills the Akomish, but if not any of those things, Betty shuts the door and Delsin leaves. I think the reason Second Son's Evil Karma writing suffered is actually because of Infamous 2. You see, the devs picked the good ending for Infamous 2 as canon because of trophy data. Most players picked that despite the initial plans for the evil ending being canon. So when we go into Second Son, they assumed, oh well, most people are going to play as the good guy anyways, and as a result, Evil Root suffered a bit. Delsin as a character on both ends is strange, because even in the hero route, he doesn't go through this massive development, or at least not towards the end. He shows moments of actual maturity and then goes back to being a one-liner Andy in gameplay. He was only in Seattle for like, what, maybe half a week? In the span of a few days, he managed to convince the city he was a good guy and take on all the DUP. I feel like the game would have benefited a bit lore-wise if he was there for a while longer, because a few days, really. The story for this game on both ends have their flaws without a doubt, though as stated earlier, I obviously think one is better than the other. I will give Evil Karma this though. The gameplay is more enjoyable. Not that the hero route is boring, but Evil Karma, you really get to let loose of the combat. Besides, there is something more enjoyable forcing streamer brain rot into your enemies than tying them to the ground. Hero route feels great because there's growth, there's development, everything felt earned, or mostly anyways. I know some people don't like the ending for the Hero Karma, as it's a bit too happily ever after, but I disagree. Delsin still lost his brother. Sure, he may have saved the day, but he still lost his only family as a result. One thing I do criticize the hero ending for is the whole conduit racism thing being solved. I have a really hard time believing that Delsin solved that everywhere. I can believe that he made it a thing within Seattle, but all around the world? No, that would take forever. Besides, he fought a government agency on the brink of collapse. But what about the actual government and the military? How do they come into play? Will they continue to spread propaganda about bioterrorists, or will they follow Delsin's example? There is a question that many ask with the release of Second Son. If the RFI killed conduits, how are they here now? Well, Cole's legacy explains that. You see, a reporter named Wolf had reports on Cole McGrath and came under suspicion from the DUP, so he hid them. The reports basically say that most conduits died, but some lived, and that's how the conduit gene carried on. You do get to talk to Zeke from the first 2 games, as he is actually part of a pro-conduit organization, and at the end of it, you get Cole's jacket. It's not the best explanation, in fact I'd say it's pretty garbage, but it's something anyway. But what is actually interesting is the audio logs planted throughout the game. They provide a bit more context on how the conduit gene works, Kurt and Kay, but also on Augustine. When doing your first audio log mission, a DUP agent voiced by my goat Matt Mercer will basically be a man on the inside. He leaves reports for Delsin to find things going on within the DUP outside of Seattle. Delsin's noise in Seattle caused whispers all the way back to Washington about the need of the DUP, and this guy wants to help. The report says this: without a doubt, Augustine is the most powerful conduit, that the DUP may be an army, but she is the DUP. The mission was always to detain conduits, but she did it so well the government basically thought we don't need you anymore, which is just a bomb waiting to go off. You gotta remember, no one at this point can truly stand up to her. The guy who sends these reports also has the conduit gene. It's not stated if it's awakened yet, but as a result, he was transferred to the new formed Department of Unified Protections and underwent all the same tests that the Kurt and Kay prisoners did, causing headaches, seizures, and other side effects. He accepted it though, at least at the time. He genuinely believed in the cause. When Delsin made his first grand appearance in Seattle by taking out the Space Needle network, Augustine searched long and hard for us. She showed up to DUP protests, tortured them all if they gave us up, but of course, they wouldn't have that information. Though, once those concrete daggers enter your body, you will say anything to get them out. So they all lied, of course giving her information that was false out of self-preservation. But of course, she can read liars. It also goes to show how fucking strong the Akomish are for not a single person selling out Delsin. Hank Daughtry was actually smarter than most of us give credit for, at least in his area of expertise, keeping your head in Kurt and Kay that even the smarter inmates had trouble doing. He had already escaped from prisons before, and Augustine knew this. It's why she put him on that transport, because she had faith Hank would be the one to crash it, and cause all the events that she wanted to maintain the DUP's formation. Though of course if Hank wasn't on there that day, Delsin's world would be way different, probably still in Salmon Bay, tagging stuff with troll faces. The suspicion pens. They're all people who tested positive for the conduit gene, dormant or not. So when our agent had to oversee their collection, it was mostly people who had no idea what the conduit gene even was, kicking and screaming for the people in their lives that they probably won't see again. For us, it's a quick karma bonus, showing up and breaking open the pen, or killing them, whichever, and then you proceed to leave. For them, they had their lives changed for something they didn't even know about. The DUP were also told to lie when bringing people in, whether lying without knowing. Either way, it's all the same, telling them that they're going to a safe place. Our next report, which is awesome, the DUP returned to Salmon Bay and actually tested people for the conduit gene, which one person did test positive for. They aren't named, but Augustine, of course, threatened him to join her, but he laughed in her face. Usually the whole, oh, we're both conduits actually works, but here, the tribe member simply said, when Delsin finds you, tell him hi from the Akomish, as he was taken away to Kurt and Kay. Again, the Akomish are tough as hell. The DUP weren't always made up on concrete conduits. They experimented with a number of abilities. They needed something that could adapt to most situations and was easy to train. Plant and organic abilities made people uneasy. No, don't fuck the plant person. Wire was too hard to control, and paper didn't convey the message that the DUP wanted to push. Security. Glass was actually a top contender, but was too difficult to master. It goes to show that there are as many different abilities, and Augustine wasn't the only one who turned on our kind. If the government can get a hold of all the other powers, it would have been cool if we fought other DUP conduits that didn't just have concrete. Our next one is interesting, because our agent still thinks conduits and humans can't coexist. Whilst yes, conduits are still people, ignoring the difference in power is naive. Humans have a bad day, they may punch their wall or cry on Twitter. Conduits have a bad day, next thing you know, they've accidentally killed someone. Conduits are in a completely different class than the powerless, though he admits that he doesn't want to spend his day scaring his neighbor, but doesn't want to be in a prison camp either. Our agent was there the day he brought in Fetch. You see, he never thought about where he was sending the conduits he collected, but on the day he found her, easiest collection ever. She was a wreck after what she did to her brother. It was then he started thinking, that girl didn't need a prison. Yeah, she needed a 12-step program is what she needed. He also does wonder how they both managed to stay one step ahead of them for so long, considering at this point the two were mostly junkies. Fetch spent the first year in Kurt and Kay, curled up in her cell in the fetal position. With no drugs to keep back the demons, she was probably going through withdrawals, as well as, reliving the traumatic events that happened to her, exactly what Augustine wanted. She wanted to break her, train her, then break her again. It's clear she wanted to create more than just concrete soldiers. The day she escaped, Our agent was happy when she did. Eugene was also chucked in a hole and tortured for 7 years. Easy collection, but was not all there when he first came in. But after what she did to him, it's amazing the guy is still sane. From what it sounds like, she was training him for a mission sanctioned by the government. Probably to use his army for big oil or something like that, or at least that's what the government thought. He probably wanted to use him to be the monster in Seattle. We get this report on the first ever Curtin K prisoner, Celia. She was the girl Augustine had encased all those years ago, before there even was a DUP. She was also going to be on that transport that day, however, she killed herself using her own ability. Curtin K had been her whole life. She didn't even remember what the other side was like, so when she found out she was being moved, she didn't take it well. She didn't want to leave. A common thing for prisoners after they've been in captivity for so long. You'd think Augustine would be shocked that a conduit died, especially the one that she brought in, but I guess because she wasn't the one who did it, she just said clean it up and carry on as planned. Shows how out of touch she really was. This one I find very interesting. When Augustine found out we're drawing powers out the drones and the core relays, she was pissed. She ordered a recall of all of them, but of course, when we took out the Space Needle network, that was difficult to communicate. She tried to do it herself, draining powers out the core relays, but she couldn't do it, only coming out of the storage room angrier, not more powerful. This shows how special Delsin really is. Imagine if he found his way to Curtin K. That thought definitely crossed Augustine's mind, and it scared her. And our agent. He alone could take on Augustine with video and concrete. Imagine if he got all of those powers. And of course the tracker drones and the relays that she has stashed all in one room. He would be unstoppable, more than he already is. The fact that the conduits are all in one place. Honestly, if they ever make another Infamous game, Evil Delsin would be the coolest antagonist ever. The story doesn't end there. It actually goes beyond what we already know from the base game. The whole plot of Augustine and the government runs deeper than what we could have imagined. So, we follow the Paper Trail is a DLC for Infamous Second Son that uses elements of ARGs. I know you're rolling your eyes at this, but this is actually quite interesting. I promise you there's not a Germa jump scare in like the corner of the screen or something like that. I say used to because the site no longer exists, but when it came out, you could link the site to your PlayStation account and it would track clues that you did on the website and your progression in-game to unlock the next missions. I never played this because the website is down, so you don't get the full experience. Now it just gives you the missions outright. Some people absolutely hated this DLC. I mean, fair enough, but at the same time, I think its concept is interesting enough to talk about it. See, you follow Celia Fendergast, who we thought died in Curtin K. She goes around Seattle, leading you to various homicides, but also leaving origami doves for you to look at. Also, literal manga pages she made. Can't believe I'm thanking Reddit, but cheers to this Reddit user who summarized the DLC. Our first set of victims is a low-level drug dealer, his human trafficking boss, and a crooked political lobbyist customer of theirs, all of whom were implicit in taking advantage of Fetch during her junkie days. This is proven in a letter you find on the website. Killian, I hope the caliber of entertainers improves this time around. No more D-listers, no more sad sacks, no more excuses. What happened to that one chick with the short pink hair and an attitude from a few years back? More like her. My clients expect the best. I want to give them a night they won't forget, or won't remember, depending on how things go. If they're happy, I'm happy, and when I'm happy, you're happy. Drop off is the Crocodile Club. Each corpse is found tied to a neon sign, but with no sign of actual conduit powers. The next murder spree Celia leads Delsin to is of 3 key individuals in a court case that extended the DUP's powers to detain suspected conduits without probable cause, with the final victim even being found in Eugene's basement. But again, there is no sign of conduit powers. Next, Delsin's attention is drawn to a series of car bomb attacks on anti-conduit Senator Weingard, currently running for re-election. Weingard claims that the attacks are being carried out by conduits. Through investigation, Delsin discovers the bombings were actually staged by Weingard to garner sympathy votes, but when he confronts the senator, they're hit by a real car bombing. A note from the perpetrator claims that they'd never killed before, but were driven to by Weingard's policies on the families of known conduits. Most recently, Celia prompts Delsin to investigate the increasingly murderous anti-conduit group Lifeline. He discovers that the groups have connections inside the DUP, and that the DUP's radical chief scientist, Tyler Bennett, is planning to sell the list of suspected conduits to the military. Luckily, Delsin is able to track down Bennett's lackey and prevent the sale from going ahead. All of this is done by piecing together clues you put together, collecting Celia's origami doves, cross-referencing images you've collected, license plates, phone numbers, emails. I think the idea was interesting. Some people weren't huge fans though. What I like a little bit is that technically this is you, the player. So Delsin is putting this information together, reminiscent of a detective. Shows that the guy is actually smart. However, there are two interesting documents in relation to Augustine and Celia which explain why she's alive, and it adds more depth to Augustine's plan. I met Augustine, my protector. Sure, she threw me in an entertainment center, but I would have been killed on the outside, and I had a purpose in Curtin. I grew strong in the face of confinement, training to be a survivor, honing my skills under her watchful eye. I left my weak old pitiful form Hitori and became Saisei. I was too powerful to remain locked up forever. The government was gearing up to dismantle the DUP. Augustine needed my help. Nobody ever escapes. The myth of perfection is as important as perfection itself, so we had to find another way. That's where Naomi came in. She was a mousy little security guard. Blink and you wouldn't have even noticed her. No family, no friends. Nobody would even know she was gone. I kept repeating that last sentiment as a mantra. Nobody will know she's gone. Augustine's words echoed through my head as we engineered the events of that fateful night. I was in my cell. Naturally, Augustine had augmented my paper privileges so that I had access to a vibrant stack of cardstock, lethal in the right hands. Naomi was doing her rounds with no inkling of what was to come. I cried out, prompting her to rush to my cell. I told her I had a cut. I showed her the blood. She came to my aid, reassuring me with kind words and a kind of face. Why did she have to be so damn nice? I set the doves in motion. Like a savage fleet of warplanes, they sliced at her face until it was gone. Unrecognizable. The perfect corpse to act as my double. It was hard at first, but I stood there over her corpse, watching her blood seep into the concrete. It became easier. Augustine rushed the investigation, tied it all up nice and pretty, as I walked out the front door as Naomi Lecter, hidden in plain sight. Since I arrived in Seattle, there have been many more deaths. Petrovich, Hidalgo, Fishbein, Crilly, Paulson, Bennett, and everyone knows they're gone. So many victims with so little regret, except Naomi. You will never forget your first. For her, I repent. And the second email exchange between her and Augustine, which explains all the murders. Now, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing these names correctly, but just please bear with me, okay? I tried Googling this and nothing really helped, so I'm just going to go with what I think they sound like. Porotekuta, Augustine, Saisei, Celia. Your hour has come, Saisei. Trust does not come so easily to either of us, but I am placing my life's work in your hands. Inazuma, Kimura, and Ushinata will sow chaos, but you must fold their stories to serve our purpose. Petrovic and his underlings are dead. I made them beg for what they did to Inazuma and the other girls. But there is a meddler. I call him Fukushu, and he intrigues me. He had Kimura's gift, but now he has copied Inazuma's as well. I can't tell if it's Inazuma or Inazuma. I'm just gonna go with Inazuma. You've made me proud, Saisei. Now it's time for Fishbein to pay for his treachery. If what you say is Fukushu is true, he is far too dangerous for you alone. Continue to watch him, or distract him if you are sure he cannot reach you. I'd made Fishbein suffer, Augustine. The lawyer and the judge are dead as well, and I made certain arrangements so people will think Ushinata was responsible. But now Fukushu can copy his abilities too. What should we do? Stay in the shadows, my sweet, for I cannot protect you. The senator, Weingard, is attempting to frame Kimura for his murder. It is not enough for us to kill him, he must be disgraced, or else he will die a martyr. The senator is broken, Augustine. I left his meaningless body as an offering to Fukushu. He haunts my thoughts, even when I do not watch him. I never imagined such power. He does not fear normal humans. Remain focused. Your Fukushu is the bioterrorist Delsin Rowe. He is powerful, but he lacks a higher purpose. We shall claim him together when the time comes. First, Bennett must be dealt with. I made Bennett for what he told me in the morgue, one paper cut at a time. But people will begin to wonder, what happened to him? And I suspect Fukushu knows already. Your wyverns are not enough. Maybe it's time to end this raid and show our power. I have never been more proud of you, Celia, but there is freedom and security, and our greatest enemies are preparing to strike. Time to turn them against each other. Goad Fukushu into destroying Mortimer, but proceed carefully. Delsin is powerful and quick to violence. My purpose is not the only thing that I hold close to my heart. As you requested, the crow killed the eagle, but I do not think Fukushu is our enemy. He rejects the confines of the DUP, but he shows a way forward. He is free, and his freedom gives him power. You have done everything I have asked, and more, but unless he can be controlled, Delsin is our enemy. He is blinded by his power. He thinks he is invisible, but without rules, without his brother, who will protect him? I will put an end to him one way or another. You will never read these words. In the end, I could have saved you, but instead, I watched your destruction. I had to know whose purpose was stronger, yours or his. Now I know. You were the only mother I ever knew, and I loved you. But I found a new teacher, one who is not afraid, and it is his example I will follow. I know you will be proud. Goodbye, Augustine. I have no need of your protection any longer. Now I will wait for you, Fukushu, at the chosen place to show you what you have taught me. All of the manga pages I talked about tell a story. You can collect them in pages all throughout the DLC, but I never thought I'd be doing a manga review. Hello there guys, funny accent man here. When all put together, they tell you this. The story of Celia, aka Hattori, resembled by a rabbit. She moved around from family to family, as shown in this panel, with the other rabbits being symbolic of her family, though ironic as Hattori means alone. The second panel showcases the mobs of people during the Beast's conflict of Infamous 2, killing all people that were suspected conduits. Home sweet hell as the city turned into a lawless hellhole. She watches everyone get slaughtered as she looks up above her, seeing a dragon-like figure appear, before she names her Porotekuta, which stands for protector. She tells her to leave before more Kioi, translates to threat, arrive in greater numbers. My guess, more lynch mobs. This dragon is most likely Augustine, telling Celia to leave. Hattori asks, "How can I trust you?" And Porotekuta replies, "What choice do you have?" And we know from Augustine's memories that she follows her. Augustine, feeling stuck between two places, decides that the best course of action would be to imprison conduits to protect them from the mobs. Showcased in this next panel, "Your claws are hurting me," likely symbolic of Augustine's concrete shell. "This is the only way I know how to hold you." Again, likely symbolic of Augustine's mind at the time, thinking that this is the only way. "Then, I'd rather not be held at all," Hattori replies, before asking, "Where are you taking me?" Our next panel showcases a facility in the side of the mountain, with other dragons around it, with 3 cells, a lizard, a rooster, turkey, I don't know, and a chicken. I tried googling this, by the way, and nothing answered my questions, so I'm trying here, okay? Most definitely reminiscent of Hank, Fetch, and Eugene, though she was there before them. This new home likely resembles Kurd and Kay, the dragons being the other DUP. After some time of being imprisoned, she set on her mission to go in Seattle and commit the murders of the figureheads Augustine listed. Though of course, she needed to get out of Kurd and Kay. She could have easily broken out, but as said, the myth of perfection is almost as important as perfection itself. So she cut Naomi with so many paper cuts that no one would recognize her and take her place. With that, she escaped, the drawing resembling her killing Naomi as she literally becomes her. The next panel saying, "But in death, she gained new life." With Naomi's death, Celia took her place and gained new life. No longer the weak Hattori, but now Saisei. Saisei left and went into the world, her already gone, nowhere to be seen in the panel. The others found their own way out, as the symbolic drawings of Hank, Fetch, and Eugene are escaping Kurd and Kay. Obviously not by breaking out of Kurden itself, but a transport. Inazuma, the name she gives Fetch, which translates to lightning or bolt. Vengeance is now her drug of choice. No longer being addicted to substance, but a bloodlust, showcased as she goes all throughout Seattle as revenge for what they did to her and her brother. Ushinata, the chicken, which translates to lost, went back to playing games, hiding from the world. Symbolic of Eugene. I imagine the drawings on screen are maybe from when he was apprehended by the DUP, the bullies he'd faced, similar to the Kioi. And Komuri, the lizard, which translates to smoke, aka Hank, claimed he'd never hurt anyone, which is proven true on his DUP record, saying that he had a long rap sheet since he was 12, though took great pride in never harming any civilians during the robberies. It specifies civilians, so maybe he still killed the DUP and police. However, with the dragon parts on screen, symbolic of him killing DUP soldiers both in Seattle and on the transport. The next panel telling of Saisei's new playmate, Fukushu, which translates to revenge. They would share stories and laugh hours on end, though they drew attention with Augustine closing in. Fukushu of course being Delsin, as seen with the bird encased in armor, but also the wings being 2 different colors symbolic of his karma. But at the same time, the armor may be resembling his arsenal of powers, maybe the story she mentioned, symbolic of her leading him on this goose chase, him going around Seattle fighting the DUP as she watches. Or is she just a nutter? I mean, she is, but, you know, at least she's an accurate nutter. As Augustine draws closer, she says, "I failed to see the humor," in reference to the laughter the two would share as Fukushu claims to search harder. And with this, the battle of good and evil begins. As Saisei watches the bird Fukushu and Porotekuta fighting, though she claims the roles were debatable, probably meant to signify karma choices of Delsin, as regardless, he comes out on top. The next panel with Saisei saying, "Mama," as she runs to Augustine. "I did what you asked of me. sought vengeance and retribution, in reference to the mission that she gave him, further shown with the bodies of Ushinata and Inazuma with Saisei's face, referencing the attempt to frame them both. As the military are closing in to capture Augustine, Celia threatens them, though Augustine just says that they are too strong and too many. With Saisei already having a new connection to her playmate Fukushu, and of course with poor Tekuta rejecting her, she loses faith in Augustine and decides that the ideas that she held of her now die here, as Saisei's mouth widens and claims that death is not an ending. Death is now a part of us, as it is life, as she consumes poor Tuketa. For the record, I don't think she killed Augustine, just her ideas of her. I feel like Delson would know if she did kill Augustine, so to make things clearer a bit towards the end there. Apprehending Celia at the battle of good and evil, we get to see the memories. See the death of the conduits made her hate the powerless. Celia and Augustine were actually close. While she was imprisoned, it's probably what stemmed her mentality that the conduits were saved because Celia actually loved her. She believed that Augustine was trying to keep her safe, though of course the others did not. She set Celia loose, her most loyal helper, into Seattle, gave her a list of targets, and attempted to frame the murders on Hank, Eugene, and Fetch. However, as Delson arrived in Seattle, it all changed. Her views on Augustine shifted from looking up to her to seeing her as weak, instead viewing Delson as unstoppable. But most importantly, free. Delson had taught her so much, and now she'll make them hide. In the origami pages, the relationship between Fukushu and Saisei is meant to be Delson teaching Celia freedom by her watching him all throughout Seattle. The two never interacted till now, their stories and laughter being symbolic of the things that he did, like dismantling the DUP. Augustine fails to see the humor in Delson dismantling the DUP. With her defeat, she still worries about her, but with her rejection, the pedestal that she placed Augustine on crumbles. So she consumes, killing her. Not literally killing her again, killing the idea of her, now having her own wings though, and freedom as a result of killing Augustine in her mind, allowing her to be free. Delson vows to himself to fix that mistake if he ever meets her again, that he's sorry for the hand that he played in teaching her what it is to be free. What is interesting is in the first document it says that she was too powerful to be locked away. Is she more powerful than Augustine? And if so, could she have stopped Delson's uprising in Seattle? She leaves behind a letter for us as it reads out. As the saying goes, always leave them wanting more. So long, Delson Rowe. You came here to fight me, I understand that, but I can't satisfy your bloodlust. You can't fight an idea, can't kill what's inside you, and I'm a part of you now, Delson, the good or bad. You chased me looking for the truth, and now you have it. Would you really say that these monsters deserve to live? No, you're like me. You follow your instincts to survive, to fight, to avenge. You had your differences with Augustine, and so did I. She wanted to preserve Kurt and Kay, but we wanted more. We wanted power. We wanted freedom. Real freedom. And now, we have it. If there is ever a next game and Celia is a part of that, it wouldn't surprise me if he gets caught in the middle of a conflict between the military and a full-bore conduit organization. I personally think this DLC is quite interesting, as whilst Delson was going around bonking people with new powers having the time of his life, there's this whole government conspiracy running around in the background during the events of the game. Regardless, this brings us to the end of the content that Infamous Second Son holds. I'll keep this brief as this video has gone on for a while. This game, despite its glaring flaws, it's still amazing, and I would again highly recommend you play it. The powers are fun, the story isn't no Aristotle versus Socrates, but it's still good for the kind of game that it is. Sucker Punch, please return to the series as it is actually goated. All of these games, despite their problems, are so memorable for people, myself included. So hopefully, you revisit this gem of an IP. How do I end this? Open world superhero games that have unique powers and characters seem to be mostly lost. So even if Infamous doesn't return, hopefully Prototype does. I'll just remaster the first two games as they're not easily accessible. For the old games, you either need an older console or have to emulate them. So please, Infamous and Prototype, return to us. This video, to say it took me forever is a massive understatement. I have been working on this for at least 3 months. A like, a comment, or anything would be so appreciated. If somehow any other creators stumble upon this video, hi, I'm an editor looking for work, teehee. On a real note, if you happen to be in search of an editor, hi anyways. Thanks for all the support on the socials recently, it does mean a lot. That's it for me for the next few months, so bye.